Chapter 10:18. Inside the fiery dragon city, people were surging. The elders of the city were all standing on the city walls with solemn expressions. The surrounding city walls were filled with the newly formed Yi family army. All of them were equipped with blades and armors. The snow-white blades reflected a dazzling light. When they linked together, it looked like a white dragon on the green city walls, releasing a boundless, murderous aura. Outside the city walls and in the sky, there was a sky blue, translucent shield covering the city. There were millions of people in the city, but they were silent. Everyone looked at the sky and the city walls with a complicated expression. Some were worried, some were excited, and most of all, shocked. The sky and the sky outside the shield were filled with demonic beasts. At this moment, they were attacking the shield in a frenzy. The light in the city was extremely dim because of the concentrated demonic beasts. It was like the dark clouds before a storm, suffocating people. Although the shield isolated the sounds from the outside, the overbearing aura of the demonic beasts in the sky and their ferocious faces made the people in the city feel a chill in their hearts. There was a wave of fluctuation in the sky above the city, and everyone's gazes looked towards the sky above the city. When they saw a cold and handsome man in an azure robe appear with a group of peerlessly beautiful women, the worry and astonishment on everyone's faces vanished, and it was replaced by fanaticism and worship. "Greetings, Lord Hanye!" Earth-shattering shouts rang out, causing the protective barrier in the city to rumble. Yi Qinghan smiled warmly and waved his hand, indicating for everyone to get up. His expression was incomparably calm as he slowly flew towards the city wall. His calm demeanor made the millions of people in the city feel like he was a towering mountain. As long as this mountain didn't arrive, the wind and rain outside would never come in. Lei Jun looked at the people below and heaved a sigh of relief. If the demon emperor didn't suddenly go crazy, he didn't know the demonic beasts would riot. It was because of the demon emperor's madness that he immediately found out the demonic beasts under the demon emperor's command were rioting. He immediately activated the shield and teleported all the people in the Nine-Guard City. Otherwise, with the weak shield of the Nine-Guard City, many people would have died this time. Yi Qinghan flew to the top of the city wall and stood alone on the beacon tower that protruded from the city wall. Facing the demonic beast that was so close to him, he didn't care at all and stood there proudly. Through the gaps between the demonic beasts, he began to observe the situation outside. The number of demonic beasts was uncountable, and there were many types of demonic beasts. At a glance, there were at least thousands of types, and most of them were walking beasts. Yi Qinghan looked out through the gap. What he saw was an endless horde of demonic beasts that stretched as far as the eye could see. They were like a swarm of locusts, a dense black mass that caused one's heart to tremble. The flying-type beasts and the powerful flying-type beasts were all frantically attacking the shield. Although the shield had isolated the sound, Yi Qinghan could clearly feel the sharp teeth, claws, and horns of the demon beasts attacking the shield, emitting a heart-palpitating sound. There are at least 3 million demonic beasts, but there are at most 100 Tier 7 demonic beasts. Originally, monster beasts rarely attacked cities because rank 7 monster beasts basically had the intelligence of humans. They would not provoke the apex powerhouses of humans. But for some unknown reason, the entire Immortal Realm's monster beasts are attacking cities like crazy. It's fine if the big city's shield is strong, but the small tribes are probably in trouble. Lei Jun stood beside Yi Qinghan and reported with a heavy expression. Yi Qinghan nodded. Lei Jun did not know the reason, but Yi Qinghan was very clear about it. That was because the monster beasts were the product of the demonic aura. With so many demons from the Star Sea descending into the Immortal Realm, the demonic aura in the air of the Immortal Realm must be incomparably thick. These monster beasts were infected by the demonic aura, and their souls were triggered by the demonic aura. Hence, all of them went crazy. Assemble the Yi family army. Listen to my command. Follow me and attack. First, we'll clean up the monster beasts in Lonyang Prefecture. You take charge of Fiery Dragon City. A greenish-black long saber suddenly appeared in Yi Qinghan's hand. Divine energy was infused into the saber, and the shadow of a strange beast roared and appeared, shattering the oppressive atmosphere in the city. Instantly, the whole city was filled with endless killing intent. All the Yi family army, rise to the sky. Listen to the sovereign's command and prepare for battle. Legion shouted. Instantly, countless figures rose to the sky and gathered in midair. All of them were wearing cyan armors. There were at least 100,000 of them, and their strength was at least at the Emperor realm. Among them, for captains were all at level 7. Enchantress! Yi Qinghan shouted in a deep voice. Enchantress immediately took Yi Qinghan and teleported away. Both of them appeared in the sky tens of thousands of meters above Fiery Dragon City. Hiss! Ayo! Roar! When two humans suddenly appeared in the sky, the surrounding demonic beasts instantly became even more berserk. A ferocious aura enveloped the entire wilderness. The huge beast's eyes turned red as they shot towards Yi Qinghan and Li Xiandao. Before they even got close, the berserk and ferocious aura along with the stench in their mouths had already drowned the two of them. Enchantress, clean up all these level 7 monster beasts. Yi Qinghan frowned. The power of space around him swarmed toward him. His figure also gradually disappeared in the sky. The power of space condensed into a giant face in the air. Under the immense pressure of the power of space, all the demonic beasts were pressed down. The demonic beast horde that stretched as far as the eye could see were all prostrated on the ground, unable to move. The city lord is invincible. The city lord is mighty. The Yi family army and millions of people gathered in the city, ready to set off, saw that Yi Qinghan had suppressed all the terrifying and powerful monster beasts in an instant. They all shouted. Their blood was boiling. They couldn't wait to rush out and fight. Of course, Yi Qinghan couldn't let them out. His method of using the power of space was very simple. At this moment, it was already very difficult for him to control the power of space and not suppress the Fiery Dragon City. Otherwise, if the power of space pressed down, the shield in the city would be instantly broken. A soft sword appeared in Enchantress's hand. The soft sword was surrounded by the power of origin. She nodded at Yi Qinghan's huge face. She teleported. She easily locked onto her target. It was a huge black dragon below. However, it had 8 giant claws. Based on its aura alone, it was definitely a level 7 monster beast. Yi Qinghan and Enchantress seemed to have a telepathic connection. The power of space around the black dragon flowed. The pressure on the black dragon was relieved. Immediately, it roared again. Its lantern-sized eyes were blood red. It was about to shoot at Yi Qinghan again. Swish! 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 A soft sword surrounded by a white aura, like the tongue of a poisonous snake, suddenly appeared in the space in front of it. The long sword pierced the shiny black scale between the dragon's horns. Like cutting a watermelon, it easily pierced the dragon's head. At the same time, the soft sword twisted. Blood spurted out of the huge black dragon's head. A huge monster core flew out. The seemingly ferocious dragon, which was hundreds of meters long, began to convulse. A moment later, its huge body fell to the ground with a loud bang. With the cooperation of a sovereign and a venerable, the powerful level 7 monster beast was instantly killed. There was no suspense. The eyes of the Yi family soldiers in the city burned with passion. They were ready to move. Even Lei Jun wanted to go out and fight. However, Yi Qinghan did not give the order, so no one moved. They all watched the incomparably enchanting Enchantress in a light gauze outside. Enchantress's attacks were clean and efficient. Every time she teleported, she would take a level 7 monster core with her. Not long after, on the flat ground outside the city, almost 100 monsters had fallen. Enchantress did not even look at the monster cores that were worth hundreds of millions of god stones floating in the air. Although she had killed hundreds of monsters, there was not a single trace of blood on her snow-white gauze. She was like a goddess who had descended from the heavens, noble and elegant. Chapter 1019. Uncle Leijun, activate the shield. The Yi family army move out, split into groups, and clear the beasts. Following Yi Qinghan's faint voice transmission, the protective shield within the city was activated. 100,000 Yi family soldiers, whose eyes were already bloodshot, split into hundreds of small groups and charged towards the horde of demonic beasts like hundreds of sharp arrows. Yi Qinghan canceled his will state. The origin energy revolved around his body as he held the dragon source saber and dashed towards the beasts. The Yao Ji followed him closely. Since they had the origin energy to protect them, they didn't care about the beast's attacks. The dragon source saber and the soft sword danced in the sky. Blood and flesh splashed around them. No one could resist their attacks. They were unstoppable. Kill! The earth-shattering battle cries and the incessant roars of the demon beasts interweaved together, forming a very cruel but enchanting scene. No matter the Tier 1 beasts or the Tier 6 beasts, all of them had bloodshot eyes. They had lost their minds. They only wanted to tear the humans in front of them into pieces. The 100,000 soldiers of the Yi family army were all elites. They were warriors who had walked through mountains of blades and seas of fire. They weren't afraid of death. There wasn't the slightest bit of sentiment in war. It was either you die or I die. It was incomparably horrifying. The mountains and plains were covered in fresh blood and dismembered corpses, and the sky was covered in a rain of terror. Outside the fiery dragon city, the battlefields were everywhere. The god powers shot out dazzlingly. Yi Qinghan used his soul consciousness to check. He felt relieved. Lei Jun had spent hundreds of years to gather the 100,000 soldiers of the Yi family army. Yi Qinghan didn't know how strong they were. The battle had been going on for half an hour. However, there weren't many casualties. Billions of beasts had been killed, but only a few hundred people had died. Most of them were just wounded. Finally relieved, Shi Yin and the Yao Ji turned into shadows, attacking the Tier 6 beasts. Although there were many demonic beasts all over the mountain, once these high-level demonic beasts were cleared out, the rest would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Of course, countless demonic cores were also a huge source of income. While fighting, Yi Qinghan was communicating with Lord Devour. After Lord Devour understood the situation, he did not say much, only telling him to rush to the Soul Devourer Manor after clearing out the demonic beasts in Longyang Manor. He was given 2 days at most. 2 hours later, under the crazy attacks of Yi Qinghan, Yao Ji, and the captains of the Yi family army, almost all the high-level demon beasts were wiped out. The rest was simple. The weakest member of the 100,000 Yi family soldiers was a god emperor. Moreover, they were all god emperors who had comprehended the laws. Against a bunch of low-level demonic beasts, there was no suspense at all. It became a one-sided massacre. When Yi Qinghan saw that the situation was more or less settled, he did not make a move. Instead, he returned to the city with Yao Ji. After giving some instructions, he left Lei Jun in charge of the city and teleported to Longyang Manor's Longyang City. The battle outside Longyang City had already ended. The demonic beast corpses were like mountains outside the city. Fresh blood dyed the moat outside the city red. The air inside the city still had a faint smell of blood. Lei Kuang was not in Longyang City. There were not many Lei family's grand elders in the city. Only 2 grand elders were there to receive Yi Qinghan. After a quick exchange of information, Yi Qinghan's face became even more solemn. This time, the demonic beast's uprising was very sudden. Moreover, they attacked at the same time. Although only one of the 108 cities of Longyang Manor fell, only 2/3 of the low-level warriors in the tribe returned. However, only 2/3 of the low-level warriors in the tribes had returned. The rest of the tribes had all fallen. Just the Longyang Prefecture alone had lost millions of people. At this moment, Lei Kuang, the Lei family's grand elders, and the Longyang Manor's army were all dispatched to the eastern side of Longyang Manor. The situation there was the most dangerous. Although they were constantly teleporting people to safety, there were so many people in each city. How could they evacuate so quickly? Once the city's barrier was broken, the low-level warriors in the city would die in large numbers. Yi Qinghan did not waste any words. He only instructed the Yi family's army to directly head to the most dangerous cities when they arrived. Then, he and Yao Ji stepped into the eastern city, Goxiong City. Yi Qinghan walked into the teleportation array. The Lei family's grand elders and the hundreds of thousands of warriors in the square all kowtowed to him. They knew that although there were only two of Yi Qinghan, they could fight against a million-strong army. The tens of millions of people in Goxiong City could be saved. Yi Qinghan and Yao Ji appeared in Goxiong City. They found that the square of the small city was filled with people. The teleportation array next to it was continuously teleporting people. Each time it could only teleport a few hundred people out. In the square, on the streets, on the roofs, and in the air, there were at least 10 million low-level warriors. These warriors' faces were filled with despair and fear. The small city's barrier was getting weaker and weaker. It seemed like it would collapse in the next second. Then, the monsters outside would rush in and tear them to pieces. Even so, no one rushed to the teleportation formation because everyone knew that. Everyone knew that if the teleportation array was in chaos, the speed of teleportation would be even slower. More people would die later. Outside the city, countless white-armored Longyang official army soldiers were fighting a bloody battle. A white-haired old man was like a god of war, roaring wildly in the midst of the demonic beasts. Even the hilt of his long blade had been dyed red. The white armor on his body had turned into a blood-red one. All the official army soldiers were fighting crazily. Although there were at least 100,000 people in the official army, there were too few powerhouses. There were at least dozens of rank 7 monsters outside. Every second, countless official army soldiers were torn apart and became food for the monsters. The scene was unbearable. Another teleportation array in the city lit up. The appearance of Yi Qinghan and Yao Ji shocked the martial artists in the city. Then they sighed. At first, the people in the city thought that there were powerhouses coming to help. Everyone's eyes emitted a light that could melt a piece of divine iron. However, when they saw that there were only 2 people, the smile on their faces disappeared and was replaced by despair and fear. Without hesitation, Yi Qinghan and Yao Ji disappeared into the teleportation array before the light of the teleportation array faded completely. Countless martial artists in the city were shocked. However, more people were confused and bewildered. When a giant face appeared in the sky, everyone in the city was confused. They looked at the face in the sky in a daze. After a while, everyone in the city and the official army outside the city trembled. It was as if they had reached the peak of love with a beautiful woman. Their bodies trembled, and even their souls trembled. It's the Frigid Night Monarch. The Frigid Night Monarch is here to save us. Long live, billions of years. Oh, Supreme Divine Emperor, oh no. Oh, Frigid Night Monarch, we're saved. We can live. The Frigid Night Monarch, long live. The Frigid Night Monarch is invincible. Earth-shattering shouts resounded in the city. Countless people burst into tears and kowtowed to the giant face in the sky. Even the flagstones on the ground were smashed. Their foreheads were dripping with blood, but they didn't feel anything. More than 100,000 Longyang official army soldiers outside the city were suppressed by the will and couldn't move. Many people were even entangled with the demonic beasts. However, their souls trembled. It was an honor to fight side by side with the Frigid Night Monarch. They would remember it for the rest of their lives. Even if they died, it would be worth it. As Yao Ji's figure floated around outside the city like a ghost, the 7th-grade demonic beasts outside the city fell to the ground one by one. When all the 7th-grade demonic beasts were annihilated, Yi Qinghan released the will. After the official army outside the city regained their mobility, all of them roared like bulls in heat. They turned their roars of anger and hot blood into attacks that poured down on the demonic beasts. Yi Qinghan didn't fight for too long. After stabilizing the situation, he rushed into the transmission array under the fiery gaze of thousands of people and continued to act as a firefighter. He knew that if he didn't fight for a second, he might be able to save millions or even tens of millions of lives. Before the transmission array, he looked at the countless corpses of martial artists outside the city. A trace of rage flashed through his eyes. The Demon World of 9 Serenities. Chapter 10:20. Yi Qinghan continued to run around the small cities to the east of Lonyang Manor. Although he managed to save countless lives, in the end, a small city still fell into enemy hands. When Yi Qinghan arrived, the small city was already littered with corpses. In the end, only half of the cultivators were saved. When Yi Qinghan killed all the high-level demonic beasts in a frenzy. Lei Kuang also came with his men. Lei Kuang did not complain about Lei Jin not coming, because one Yi Qinghan was better than a few hundred Lei Zins. If it wasn't for Yi Qinghan, Lonyang Manor would have suffered a huge loss. Yi Qinghan did not stand on ceremony with Lei Clan. After confirming that Lei Kuang could stabilize the situation in Lonyang Manor, Yi Qinghan directly teleported to Dripping Spring Manor. Yi Qinghan directly teleported to the Dripping Spring Manor. The Soul Devourer Manor had Lord Devourer, and Emperor Yu, and the others were incomparably powerful. The Soul Devourer Manor's army was also famous for being tyrannical, so there shouldn't be any problems. When he arrived at Dripping Spring City, he found that there were not many familiar faces in the city. Finally, he found Li Shuer, whom he was somewhat familiar with. Yao Ji teleported, and the two appeared in Dripping Water Pavilion, scaring Li Shuer, who was in a daze. After Li Shuer exclaimed, she stared blankly at the man who was once abused by her, the man who ruthlessly spanked her, but the man who had reached a height where she could only look up to. Her eyes flashed with complicated feelings. Li Shuer, what's the situation in Dripping Spring Manor now? I'm talking about the demonic beasts attacking the city. Yi Qinghan did not have the time to think about what Li Shuer was thinking, nor did he have the interest to flirt. If Li Shuer did not stay with him for a period of time in the mountain-piercing divine world, he definitely would not come looking for her. Ah! When Li Shuer heard Yi Qinghan call out her name, her face blushed. Then, she saw Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitching and quickly woke up. He pondered for a moment and said, there are 5 cities in danger in the north, 3 in the south, and 2 in the west. Manor Lord brought the doyens and rushed over. Grand Elder Li Shan is overseeing the city. I don't know the specifics either. Thank you. The frown on Yi Qinghan's face deepened as he realized that he had come here in vain to ask Li Shuer. He hurriedly flew to the city lord's mansion with Yao Ji to look for Grand Elder Li Shan. He said thank you to me. Li Shuer looked in the direction that Yi Qinghan had disappeared in, looking at the green figure that was getting further and further away. She knew that this man was destined to drift further and further away from her. She let out a deep sigh, and her eyes dimmed as she muttered to herself. There was once a man who appeared before me, but I didn't cherish him. After clarifying the situation in Mount Li, Yi Qinghan once again became a member of the firefighting team. He teleported to a small city in the south that had been repeatedly asking for help, and then rushed to the west of Li Quan Manor. Before the demonic moon rose, the situation in the Dripping Spring Manor was finally stabilized. As Venerable Li Quan had been running the Dripping Spring Prefecture for hundreds of thousands of years, the entire prefecture was united. Moreover, every city lord was an elite, and the prefecture army was also the elite of the elite. None of the small cities had been breached, and the tribes had also retreated quickly, without much damage. Yi Qinghan did not even have time to drink a mouthful of water, nor did he have the time to meet with Venerable Li Quan. He teleported overnight to the 100 Battle Manor that Jita said was the most serious. The 100 Battle Manor had the largest mountain range in the Misty Continent, the 100 Battle Mountain Range. Monsters wreaked havoc in the mountain range, and it was said that even a peak rank 7 team did not dare to venture into the depths of the mountain range. Usually it was very enjoyable. The martial artists in the manor could often go to the periphery of the 100 Battle Mountain Range to hunt monsters and obtain monster core materials, making a fortune. In the end, it was terrible this time. When the monsters went on a rampage, nearly 1,000 tribes and 4 small cities at the edge of the mountain range instantly fell. However, among the tens of thousands of martial artists that escaped, 3 city lords had fallen. At this moment, half of the prefecture was being attacked by a terrifying horde of monsters. Jita and his 4 venerables, as well as countless elders and powerhouses in the city, had already set off to suppress the monsters. Even venerable Elysian Sky, who had always been in closed-door cultivation, had been mobilized. Jida from the 100 Battle Manor had personally come, and now even Yi Ching Han had rushed over. It was obvious how intense the battle was and how dangerous the situation was. When he arrived at the 100 Battle City, Yi Ching Han scanned the area and found that the square, the streets, and the sky were filled with people. They were all low-level martial artists, and it was rare to see even an emperor god. Outside the shield outside the city, there were countless monsters attacking. What was strange was that no one went to kill the monsters, and there was almost no official army in the city. Just as Yi Ching Han was about to kill the demonic beasts outside, a senior elder who had stayed behind quickly flew over. After saluting Yi Ching Han, he asked Yi Ching Han to immediately rush to a small city in the east. He said that the 100 Battle City's shield could only last for a few hours, so saving the people in the small city was more important. Thus, Yi Ching Han's miserable life began. The continuous use of willpower made his soul very tired. Although he had mastered the use of spatial power, he didn't know how to use it. He didn't have the slightest technique to speak of. According to Gid, he was like a boorish man with great power. However, Lord Devour didn't allow Jida to teach him. Lord Devour said that they were only half-baked and wouldn't teach him. Although a brute had great power, using brute force constantly would also exhaust him mentally and physically. Fortunately, Yi Ching Han only released spatial power and used it to suppress the monsters. He didn't use willpower to attack, so he could barely withstand it. After stabilizing the 100 Battle Manor in the middle of the night, the two of them set off again to the Heavenly Demon Manor. Neither of them said anything, but they could see the anger and hostility in each other's eyes. After the Heavenly Demon Manor was the Beacon Smoke Manor, then the Beacon Smoke Manor, and then the Lotus Flower Manor. On the second day, when the demonic sun was high in the sky, Yi Ching Han had already gone to more than a dozen prefectures and hundreds of small cities. Even the enchantress felt exhausted. Her eyes that occasionally flew over lost some of their charm. Yi Ching Han felt like his head was about to explode. He sat on the rooftop of the soul-devouring city and closed his eyes, gasping for breath. Jida's face was gloomy, while Lord Devour was drinking tea and reading a book. He looked very relaxed. Actually, Yi Ching Han knew from Jida that Lord Devour had gone to more than 30 prefectures. However, she didn't seem to fight much. It was Mo Xiao Xiao who fought most of the time. However, the two of them were very efficient. Wherever the two of them appeared, the battle would end in a short time. Mo Xiao Xiao's soul skills were extremely powerful. Of course, Yi Ching Han knew that if it wasn't for Lord Devour, Mo Xiao Xiao could only run to a few prefectures, and it would be difficult. Lord Devour appeared to be cold-blooded and emotionless. Of course, he was absolutely cold-blooded to his enemies. However, in many aspects, Yi Ching Han believed that her heart was softer than his. A person who could love a man so deeply would definitely not be so heartless. After a day and a half, the demonic beast rampage on the floating continent had basically stabilized. Lord Devour sent a message for the two to return to the soul-devouring city. The Heavenly Venerable and the others continued to bring people to completely stabilize the situation. The Enchantress and the Yi family army also returned to the Flame Dragon City after helping the Longyang Prefecture clear the demonic beasts. This demonic beast rampage had only lasted for a few days, but billions of people had died. Although those who died were all low-level warriors and did not shake the foundation of the floating continent had 3 sovereigns. If so many people had died, the other continents could only imagine what would happen to the 3 sovereigns of the floating continent. The evil demons had only descended because of the baleful Een Stream's rampage. They had discovered it immediately and started to suppress it. The baleful Een Stream was also guarded by experts, and there was also a super powerful protective array. Therefore, it did not suffer much damage. However, this seemingly inconspicuous creature that could only be hunted down by cultivators had actually brought a calamity to the immortal world. It was an unprecedented catastrophe. After an hour, Lord Devour put down his book and stood up. Looking at Yi Ching Han and Jida, who had not recovered, He coldly shouted, "All right, rest well. You two grown men, don't be shy. If you continue to sigh, the entire divine world will face a true catastrophe. Let's go to Wine Moon City." Chapter 10:21. Wind Moon City. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes, and Jida raised his head. The two looked at each other and did not ask much. Jida took Yi Qinghan and followed Lord Devour to the Wandering Sea. The God World's 6 continents were very interesting. The Blood Night continent was in the south, the Wind Moon continent was in the north, the Misty continent and Grace continent were in the east, and the South Mountain continent and Heaven Awakened continent were in the west. Wind Moon Monarch was the only monarch of the 6 continents that Yi Qinghan had never seen before. Even when he sent messages to Jida along the way, he found that Jida had only seen him a few times. Wind Moon Monarch's name was very romantic, but according to Jida's understanding, he was not romantic at all. In fact, it was said that after Wind Moon Monarch's first wife died, he had never remarried. Zheng Mingqiang was Wind Moon Monarch's name. It was an unsophisticated name, and he liked people to call him Big Brother Chang. His face was ordinary, and he looked no different from a small martial artist on the street. However, Wind Moon Monarch was someone that even Jida respected. This was because he was the God World's other supreme artificer. His strength was below grade 9, and by relying on the strange treasures in his hands, his strength could compare to a grade 9 expert. Wind Moon Monarch never participated in the conflicts between the major forces. Even when the families of the Wind Moon continent fought openly and secretly, he rarely cared. As long as they didn't violate the rules he had set, it was fine. He focused on artifact forging, so his artifact forging skills had reached a very high level. Perhaps he didn't have the wild and unconstrained thinking of the Soul Emperor, but he was still obsessed. A monarch would be obsessed with something for hundreds of thousands of years, or even millions of years, constantly researching it. No one knew just what heights his level of understanding had reached. At the same time, Lord Devour had revealed some information, which made Yi Qinghan feel better about this good old man. When the devils descended, Wind Moon Monarch, who rarely left seclusion, was the first to gather the other monarchs. He even sent people to many secret realms to ask those old things to come out. While the monarchs were busy cleaning up the devils in the baleful Een streams, he said that if the devils in the Star Sea were not immediately suppressed, the God World would welcome the third world-destroying calamity in history. As a result, when all the peak experts were preparing to gather in the Wind Moon continent, the demon beasts started to riot. The first wave of calamity had arrived yesterday. Sovereign Feng Yun had sent another message. Before the demonic moon rose today, regardless of the situation of the demonic beasts in the various continents, they had to gather at the Wind Moon Pond to discuss countermeasures. Otherwise, the situation would be irreversible. Thus, Lord Devour gave Yi Qinghan 2 days. After listening to him, Yi Qinghan sighed. He admired the noble character of the Wind Moon Monarch. This kind of person usually did not show himself, but at the critical moment he would step forward and fight for the continuation of the human race. This was a true hero. Not long after that, the 3 of them teleported to the Grace mainland. There was still some time before the rising of the demonic moon, so the 3 of them weren't hurried. They stayed in the Grace mainland to act as firefighters. The monarch of the Grace mainland, who called herself Miss Yinran, was the only monarch with a soul cultivator in the God World. Of course, at this moment, there were only 2 of them. However, the soul technique of Yi Qinghan wasn't worth mentioning in front of Monarch Yinran. Anyway, she was just one person, and the Grace mainland situation wasn't good. Thus, when Lord Devour's group came, Monarch Yinran was so grateful and excited. Yi Qinghan rested for a while to relieve some of his mental pressure. After several hours of fighting in the Grace mainland, his soul had almost collapsed the second time. With the help of the 3 peak experts, the demonic beast attack in the Grace mainland had finally calmed down before the rising of the demonic moon. The 4 of them immediately teleported to the Wind Moon continent. Yi Qinghan's pale face made Jida and Lord Devour begrudgingly. However, Lord Devour didn't want to teach Yi Qinghan his half-baked method of using space power. He just told him vaguely, You can use space power as another kind of god power. You can use the power of the origin as the sharpest weapon in your hand. As for the Upanishads, you can use them as exquisite techniques. When the three are combined, your attacking power will be maximized, and it will be easier for you to fight. You can use the least space power to increase your attacking power. You have to study it yourself. Jita and I haven't taught you how to use it, and we won't teach you in the future either. Yi Qinghan nodded feebly. Although he didn't know why Lord Devour wanted to do that, he knew that Lord Devour wouldn't harm him. It was enough for him. Monarch Yinran didn't talk much. Her temperament wasn't much different from Yi Yaorao's. She was cold, but it was natural. However, seeing Yi Qinghan's appearance, although she didn't say anything to express her gratitude, her eyes when she looked at Yi Qinghan weren't as cold as before. Wind Moon Pond was outside of Wind Moon City. The scenery was very beautiful. Dark purple flowers covered the mountains and plains. Under the towering ancient trees, there was a deep pond and an ancient castle stood quietly. This was the residence of Wind Moon Monarch. When Yi Qinghan's group of 4 arrived, the Wind Moon Monarch personally came to greet them. Yi Qinghan saw that the Wind Moon Monarch was exactly as Jida had told him. He was an honest old man. If he were on the street of the fiery dragon city, no one would give him a second glance. The Wind Moon Monarch personally welcomed the 4 of them into the castle. There were 4 people in the main hall. Yi Qinghan only knew one of them. It was the Apocalypse Monarch, Mo Shanghuang. He always had a loud voice, a straightforward personality, and a friendly smile. There were 3 more people. 2 of them looked like celestials. When they entered, the 2 of them just smiled and nodded their heads. Yi Qinghan's eyes were attracted by a girl sitting at the main seat. If not for them entering and the girl's eyes moving, Yi Qinghan would have thought that she was an ice sculpture, a beautiful ice sculpture. Ice Queen had left the island. Furthermore, she was sitting in the main seat of the Wind Moon Castle, as if she was the owner. Moreover, no one, including the Wind Moon Monarch, was unhappy at all. It was as if it was natural. Ice Queen was really cold. Even when Lord Devour nodded at her, she didn't move at all. She was like an ice mountain, like she didn't care about the many kings in the hall. However, everyone felt that it was normal, and they were used to it. To Yi Qinghan, this scene was incomparably strange. However, what happened next frightened all the monarchs. Even Lord Devour gaped in bewilderment. Miss Yinran's cold eyes brightened. That was because when Ice Queen's eyes moved and swept across Yi Qinghan's body, she stopped. Then she actually smiled. She actually smiled at Yi Qinghan. Although it was a forced smile, it was really cold. However, this smile of hers was even more shocking to the peak experts of the god world than the calamity that was about to befall the god world. Chapter 10:22. Smiling was a simple thing. Babies knew how to smile when they were a few months old. Some people smiled gently, like Yi Qinghan. Some people smiled elegantly, like Jida. Some people smiled lewdly, like Mo Shanghuang. Some people smiled terrifyingly, like the Ice Queen whose aura was even higher than Monarch Yinran's. It was because no one here, including Wind Moon Monarch who had lived for tens of millions of years, had ever seen the Ice Queen smile. This queen with immeasurable power had the aura of a goddess. She was the woman who made many men willingly lie on her feet and lick her toes. Everyone here had seen her many times. They had all gone to the ice and snow island to see her. Wind Moon Monarch had seen him the most dozens of times. Lady Yinran had seen her many times too. But she had always been like an ice sculpture, wrapped in the cold air of the extreme north. It was rare for her to even look at you. Today, she actually smiled. She smiled for a man she had just met. She smiled for a little man who was the weakest here. Wind Moon Monarch was the most shocked. He understood his neighbor. He was arrogant and strong. Even 10 of him wouldn't be his match. Ice Queen liked him because he didn't want to compete with others. The 2 of them had a good relationship. Basically, they could be considered friends. They had chatted with each other many times. But today, he was totally frightened. He recalled an ancient rumor in the divine realm. When the Ice Queen smiles one day, the entire world will tremble. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan, whose face was ashen. Although Yi Qinghan was the youngest monarch in the history of the god world, the top genius, he didn't have a handsome face that made people feel ashamed. But he didn't have a face so handsome that it would make people feel ashamed, and he didn't have a temperament like a sharp sword that made people feel cold. His warm smile and calmness made people feel like he was a little brother next door. Everybody was so curious. Monarch Yanran looked at Yi Qinghan as if she was thinking about something. Lord Devour's eyes flashed. He stepped forward, his eyes alert. Yi Qinghan was somewhat baffled. He did not know why everyone was making such a fuss when this goddess smiled at him. He had never thought that he had the aura of a king. With a shake of his body, all the girls spread their pure, white thighs in front of him. So he smiled towards the Ice Queen and then sat down on the wooden chair at the side. After Ice Queen smiled like a lotus blossoming on an ice mountain, she turned into an ice sculpture once more. Everyone sat down with complicated feelings, closed their eyes, or conversed with each other through voice transmissions. Yi Qinghan didn't look at any of them. Instead, he closed his eyes and meditated. He wasn't pretending, but rather, he was too tired and needed to meditate and recover. At the same time, he began to inspect his body. After 600 years of seclusion, he had been fighting ever since he came out. Now that he was completely relaxed, he finally remembered the condition of his body. After 600 years of seclusion, he had made great progress. He had successfully comprehended a high-grade profound space suppression. If this news was spread, the divine world would be in an uproar. It should be known that with Lei Zhen's talent, he had comprehended the fourth high-grade profound mystery for 3,000 years. His power of law had reached the level of a sixth-grade war god. Originally, when he was about to continue comprehending the next high-grade profound mystery, Yao Ji woke him up. He checked. In the end, he almost jumped up in fright. His body was fine. His head was fine, but the two soul seas in his head were in trouble again. The lightning in the origin energy above the sea of soul continued to strike downwards. The origin energy didn't change at all. The lightning was still the same, like white dragons swimming back and forth between the origin energy and the sea of soul. The soul sea used to be two brown sponges, like two pieces of walnut meat. But now the color was different. The brown had turned into yellow, and it seemed smaller. It definitely became smaller. Moreover, it was 1/10 smaller. Yi Qinghan quickly made a judgment. Then, the two soul seas started to tremble. He began to panic. Damn it, he had spent the past 600 years in the fifth stage of soul quiescence. Although he was in seclusion, Yao Ji would punctually use her ultimate killing technique, Guanyin Lotus Sitting, to help him enter the state of soul quiescence every 5 years. Logically speaking, in the fifth stage of soul quiescence, his soul sea should continue to expand. Even though his soul had reached the God Emperor realm, the progress was slow. But in 600 years, his soul sea should have doubled in size. Now, it had shrunk, and it changed color. Yi Qinghan suppressed the fear in his heart and began to check again and again. Finally, he discovered that other than his soul sea becoming smaller and changing color, there were no other changes. There were no adverse reactions. Even though the bridge connecting the two soul seas became brighter, the black line that had just appeared did not show any signs of extending. No. Suddenly, Yi Qinghan opened his eyes abruptly, causing all the sovereigns present to be stunned. However, Yi Qinghan immediately closed his eyes again, feeling astonished in his heart. But this time, besides astonishment, there was also joy. His soul sea became smaller. His soul sea seemed to have become stronger. Wasn't it still a little stronger? Wasn't the soul sea stronger the bigger the soul sea? Could it be that his senses were wrong? Yi Qinghan had the urge to use a soul skill on the spot to test his soul sea. In the end, he did not dare to make a fool of himself. He pondered for a moment and decided to have a chat with the beautiful sovereign Yanran after everything was over. Of course, he was not going to talk about his ideals. He was going to talk about the problems of soul cultivators. The strongest soul cultivator in the God realm was qualified to answer his questions. Of course, he did not know if she would teach him everything. Even though Yi Qinghan wanted to continue checking and study it in detail, the space outside the castle trembled. However, As the space outside the ancient castle trembled, several figures appeared, and Yi Qinghan had no choice but to interrupt his thoughts. South Mountain's sovereign, Blood Knight's sovereign, Hidden Sovereign, and a huge man with bronze skin that looked like an ancient barbarian walked in. Everyone opened their eyes. Ice Queen's eyes turned once more. She even nodded slightly. Of course, she did not nod at South Mountain's sovereign, but at the huge man. This is the owner of the tallest green mountain in the God Realm in the extreme south of the God Realm. He is used to people calling him Lord Green Mountain. His strength is as deep as Ice Queen's. Jita's voice transmission caused Yi Qinghan's eyes to constrict. It seemed like most of the peak experts in the God Realm had gathered. He had seen the Hidden Sovereign at Xiao Hei's wedding. Jita said that the two sage-like old men were the owners of the two secret realms. They had the strength of lower rank 9. Apart from the 3 old men in the secret realms who didn't care about the God Realm and the Star Sovereign who was known as the strongest in the God Realm, the rest of the rank 9 experts were all here. Everyone sat down. Mo Shanghuang was an impatient person. He was the first to speak. Everyone, the situation in Star Ocean cannot be delayed. The moment we delay, the evil demons will continue to descend from the space cracks. The aura of the evil demons in the God Realm's heaven and earth energy will become thicker and thicker. Now, it is a monster riot. If we don't suppress it in half a year, the next riot will be all the low-level martial artists in the God Realm. Moreover, under the control of the evil demons, the space cracks in Star Ocean will become bigger and more stable. In less than 3 months, it will definitely form a super large crack that can allow the Devil Monarch to descend. The strength of the Devil Monarch is needless to say. Once the Devil Monarch descends, half of the low-level martial artists in the God Realm will instantly be demonized. This is a calamity that could destroy the world. Mo Shanghuang was very agitated. When everyone heard what he said, their faces turned solemn. Mo Shanghuang's words were true. The evil demon's aura was continuously infecting the God Realm's heaven and earth spiritual energy. When the evil demon's aura reached a certain level, the low-level martial artists would definitely be demonized one by one and turned into walking corpses. Mo Shanghuang's face was filled with murderous intent. After looking around, he said fiercely, "Li Kong, this idiot. He made a mistake himself, but he wants us to clean up his mess. After I get rid of the evil demons, I will definitely tear this idiot into pieces. I suggest that everyone personally lead a team to suppress the evil demons. We will start tomorrow." Lord Devour sneered. He actually took over Li Kong's words and was the first to speak. If anyone dares to attack Island Supreme and kill Li Kong, all the experts above the God Emperor level in the floating mist continent will be mobilized to suppress the evil demons. I, Devour Diawu, will be the first to lead the charge. Chapter 10:23. Yi Qinghan didn't say anything. When Lord Devour was around, he wouldn't express his thoughts. Usually, he would share the same thoughts as Lord Devour. But everyone could tell from his fiery eyes that he agreed with Lord Devour's words. Jita didn't say anything and only nodded. Without a doubt, everyone here, including Ice Queen, hated Li Kong. Of course, everyone knew that Li Kong must have received instructions from Star Sovereign. If not, he wouldn't have the guts to allow the devil to wreak havoc in the Star Ocean. Most of the problems in the God world were in the Star Ocean. If Supreme Island didn't have Star Sovereign coming out of seclusion, as long as Li Kong brought the experts of Supreme Island and the billions of Star Army to suppress them, the tragedy wouldn't have happened. Although Yi Qinghan had killed more than 30 venerables from the Starry Sea, many people knew that there were at least 30 more venerables on the Supreme Island. Moreover, the Starry Army's combat power was ranked at the top in the realm of the gods. No one replied to Lord Devour's words. All the sovereigns were silent. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes. He could see many things. First, Mo Shanghuang was definitely on Lord Devour's side. Was Mo Shanghuang so friendly to him when he first went to Misty Peak? Second, the strength of Star Sovereign. Although Yi Qinghan didn't know how strong he was, he guessed that he was definitely stronger than Ice Queen. There was a high chance that he was a ninth-grade supreme martial artist. Third, Yi Qinghan had another guess in his heart. The powerhouse that killed the Soul Emperor was likely Sovereign Star. If it was a normal sovereign who did such a thing, not to mention Lord Devour, even Mo Shanghuang would have killed him. But even Mo Shanghuang only said that he killed Li Kong, and Lord Devour didn't mention anything about Star Sovereign. Once this question was asked, everyone was silent. One could imagine how strong Star Sovereign was. He was so strong that no one dared to fight him. At the same time, Yi Qinghan had another question in his mind. Why did Star Sovereign do that? Did he not care about the destruction of the God world? Lord Devour's words represented the will of the 5 sovereigns. The hidden sovereigns had been following Lord Devour's orders. Everyone felt that this was a thorny problem. Wind Moon Monarch wanted to speak a few times, but in the end, he remained silent. It wasn't good to accept this, but it wasn't good to ignore it either. If Lord Devour left in a huff, not to mention Mo Shanghuang, even Jida and Yi Qinghan would follow him. The atmosphere became awkward and oppressive. Cough, cough. A light cough broke the awkward atmosphere. Yi Qinghan looked over and realized that it was the giant barbarian, Lord Qing Shan, who spoke. Dia Wu, Li Kong has to die. There is no doubt about that, but not now. Once Star Sovereign comes out, I will work with Ice Queen to let him judge Li Kong's crimes. Now let's talk about how to suppress the demons. I'll be the first to declare my position. Tomorrow, my Green Mountain tribe's 10,008 cavalrymen will go to war from the south of the Star Sea. We won't return to the mountain until we suppress the demons. Ice Queen's eyes turned to Lord Devour and nodded. Dia Wu. Qing Shan's words count. Tomorrow, Ice Snow Island's ice guards will move out and suppress the demons from the north of Star Ocean. God world belongs to everyone. The two of them spoke up. Apart from Lord Devour and Yi Qinghan, everyone's eyes lit up. They knew how strong the 108 Iron Cavalry on the tallest mountain in God world was. They also knew how sick the skills of the Ice Snow Guards were. Blood Knight Continent, apart from those who stayed back, I will personally lead the rest of the warriors to battle. South Mountain Continent, all of us will battle. Wind Moon Continent, come out. North Hidden Secret Territory, battle. Dragon Elephant Secret Territory, battle. All of a sudden, many sovereigns expressed their opinions without hesitation. Blood Knight Sovereign and the 2 Secret Territory sovereigns belonged to Lord Qing Shan's faction. South Mountain Sovereign and Wind Moon Sovereign didn't hesitate when Ice Queen spoke up. Everyone's eyes landed on Lord Devour. Qing Shan and Ice Queen exchanged glances with one another. A weird expression flashed in their eyes. South Mountain Sovereign, Blood Knight Sovereign, and the others were shocked, which turned into shock. All of them found out something terrifying. Unknowingly, the God world had another force, a force so strong that it made them scared. Lord Devour had been a sovereign for just 1,000 years, but he had quietly pulled Mo Shanghuang and Jida into the war chariot. Then, Yi Qinghan popped up out of nowhere, including Sovereign Yanran, who hadn't expressed her opinion yet. Lord Devour's side had 6 sovereign-level experts, 3 continents, and a large-scale secret territory. Although this force hadn't been fully formed, Lord Devour had been a sovereign for less than 1,000 years. Lord Devour didn't say anything, and the others were silent. Sovereign Yanran, who was a little hesitated for a while, then kept silent. Yi Qinghan looked at Lord Devour, seeing her calm expression, and he admired her. He knew that Lord Devour had been planning and arranging many things in the dark. He didn't expect that her plan would be so successful. 700 or 800 years ago, she was just a 7th-grade war god. Today, she had become a super overlord in the god world, a super overlord that even Lord Qing Shan and Ice Queen were afraid of. Lord Devour didn't show any emotion. He picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. Then, he looked at Qing Shan and Ice Queen, saying indifferently, "Since Lord Qing Shan and Her Highness have spoken, I trust you too. My people will go to war." Mo Shanghuang, Jida, and the hidden sovereign weren't surprised. Sovereign Yinran exhaled in relief, nodded, and said, The Grace mainland will go to war. The Tianchi mainland will go to war. The Sabak secret territory will go to war. The Tianchi sovereign and the hidden sovereign immediately expressed their opinions. Yi Qinghan smiled. He knew that even if Qing Shan and Ice Queen didn't say anything, Lord Devour would go to war. A person who had traveled to more than 30 prefectures overnight to save billions of people couldn't be as cold-blooded as the rumors said. The Ice Queen was right. The divine world belonged to everyone. Since everyone agreed to go to war, the rest was easy to arrange. After discussing for more than 2 hours, they confirmed the direction of their attack and some post-battle matters. Then they all teleported away. They were ready to gather the army tomorrow and head to the Star Sea to suppress the divine world. Lord Devour brought Yi Qinghan, Jida, and Miss Yinran and teleported away. Along the way, they took turns to teleport to places without teleportation formations. After a few hours, Lord Devour, Yi Qinghan, and Jida appeared on the soul-devouring manor's rooftop. Jida, go and gather the experts. Tomorrow, you and Little Han will head to the Star Sea. I will guard the continent. Lord Devour sat under the grape trellis and leisurely read a book. Jida nodded and teleported away. Yi Qinghan also bowed to Lord Devour and was about to return to Flame Dragon City. However, Lord Devour raised his head indifferently and said leisurely, "When you go to the Star Sea, don't go near Supreme Island. When you go to the Starry Sea, do not go near the Paragon Island. When you are sure that it is safe, use the Slaughter God Blade more often. Since you can control this saber, continue to use it. In the future, you will realize that this saber's power will be beyond your imagination. Of course, if you feel that you can't control it, stop using it immediately or use your origin energy to destroy it." Chapter 10:24 Slaughter God Blade? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and stared at Lord Devour. He wasn't surprised that Lord Devour knew that he had the Slaughter God Blade. He wasn't surprised that Lord Devour knew about the origin of the Slaughter God Blade. He was just surprised that Lord Devour was so certain. Continue using it? Its power would be beyond imagination? Lord Devour didn't explain and ignored Yi Qinghan's gaze. He continued to drink her tea and read her book. He didn't even lift his eyelids. Yi Qinghan knew that Lord Devour could only say this much. He wouldn't say anything else even if he asked more. He pondered for a while and took out a fiery red inner armor from the War Imperial Palace's treasury. The inner armor had many fierce fire dragons on it, and the tiny scales on it reflected a dazzling light. Lord Devour lifted his eyelids slightly and looked at the inner armor in Yi Qinghan's hands. He frowned and asked, "Why do you have this?" "Huh?" Yi Qinghan's face lit up. When Lord Devour mentioned the Slaughter God Saber, he suddenly remembered about the Fire God battle armor and was about to ask about it. He didn't expect Lord Devour to know about it. He quickly asked, "Lord, do you know what this is?" "I don't know." Lord Devour's eyelids drooped again. He flipped through the book, and Yi Qinghan's boiling blood instantly cooled down. Just as Yi Qinghan was about to ask something, Lord Devour gently waved his hand. A leg guard that looked exactly the same as the inner armor in Yi Qinghan's hands appeared on the table in front of her. She didn't lift her head and just said, "This leg guard was given to me by the Soul Emperor. He said that it was a treasure and that if I could collect a set, it would be a great treasure. However, after all these years besides this leg guard, I haven't seen anything else. If you are interested, you can collect it yourself." Yi Qinghan looked at the leg guard on the table. With one look, he could tell that it was definitely the leg guard of the Fire God battle armor. His heart, which had not been excited for a long time, was excited again. His eyes were burning with passion. He held the greave in his hand and carefully touched it. After confirming that it was made of the same material, he put it away and sighed. "Sir, how many of these armors are there?" Lord Devour threw a glance at Yi Qinghan, then said, "There are usually 6 pieces of armor, a helmet, an inner armor, 2 leg guards, and 2 arm guards. Don't worry too much about it. If you have this opportunity, then you get it. If you don't, then it doesn't matter. Comprehending the laws is the true way. After all, transcendent grade armor was something that only existed in legends. No one in the immortal realm had ever worn it before. If this was a set of ultra-supreme grade battle armor, then it wouldn't have much meaning. Outside Soul Emperor Island, he had already smashed one. That thing can only block origin energy for a while, and at most 3 times a day. It's not very useful. Ultra extreme grade battle armor? Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. He had heard about this matter after the incident. Li Fei was wearing Li Kong's ultra supreme grade green netherworld battle armor. In the end, he had used his immense spatial power to annihilate it. This matter was spread by the Star Army, causing countless venerables to sigh. However, he didn't think that this fire god battle armor was a supreme grade battle armor. That powerful ancient cultivator of the mysterious spirit cave abode. An expert who owned a transcendent grade divine artifact and a void-gouging beast. Yet he held on to this inner armor tightly before he died. Could this fire god battle armor be ordinary? Yi Qinghan bowed to Lord Devour again and prepared to return. Lord Devour suddenly raised his head, then threw out a spatial ring and said, "Oh right, I forgot something. Originally, I wanted to give you these things later. Since you're going to the Star Sea tomorrow, I'll give them to you now." Yi Qinghan was stunned. He took the spatial ring and scanned it with his divine senses, only to find that it was full of jade talismans. There were dozens of them. They were green diamond-shaped jade talismans with complicated patterns on them. They looked very simple and imposing. He asked with some doubt, "Lord, what are these?" "Life-saving jade talismans. Give one to each of your people. Ask them to be kind and keep them. Don't break them. Take one with you. If you encounter a deadly situation, just crush it. This jade talisman will teleport you away instantly." Lord Devour said nothing after he finished. Yi Qinghan looked at the ring in his hand doubtfully. Could this thing really save his life? If he encountered a 9th grade supreme martial artist, could it teleport him away too? However, since it was arranged by Lord Devour, Yi Qinghan didn't ask anymore. After returning to Fiery Dragon City, Yi Qinghan told the girls, Lei Jun, and the senior elders of the city about the matter. Although they were worried, they didn't say anything. Moreover, there were so many sovereigns and experts this time, so it shouldn't be too dangerous. Although they didn't say anything, some people started to transmit their voices to Yi Qinghan, saying that they wanted to go with him. For example, Xiaohei, Yinling, and Fireworks who loved to play around. The enchantress also transmitted her voice to ask if they needed her to go with them. Yi Qinghan didn't transmit his voice to them one by one. He said with a sullen face, "No one is allowed to go this time. Do you think you're going to have fun? All of you stay in Fiery Dragon City. The enchantress, you don't need to go either. Many venerables will go this time. It won't be a problem without you. You should continue to study your restrictions and help Uncle Lei Jun guard Fiery Dragon City." "Xiaohei, what are you looking at?" "I said you can't go, so you can't go. If you don't want to go, then don't go. Why are you so fierce?" Xiaohei pouted her lips, looking at Yi Qinghan like a young wife. She mumbled softly. Li Shui glared at her. Xiaohei shut her mouth immediately, becoming serious. Yi Qinghan distributed the jade talismans that Lord Devour had given to the girls. Li Shui, Peach Blossom, Yi Sahan, and Lei Jun also got one. Yi Luyun and the senior elders in the city didn't get any. Lord Devour had just given them a few life-saving talismans. Although he wasn't sure if they could save their lives or not, Yi Qinghan decided to use them carefully. Jita knew that Fiery Dragon City didn't have a lot of people and experts. Moreover, as Yi Qinghan was the commander this time, he didn't mobilize the experts of Fiery Dragon City. Yi Qinghan was still worried. He asked the enchantress to take him around 10 million miles around Fiery Dragon City. After confirming that there were no intimidating demonic beasts, he felt relieved. When they returned to the city, the girls had returned to their rooms to rest. Yi Qinghan didn't want to play the Flying Swallow duo game with Yinling, and Fireworks. Instead, he sat alone in the hall, closing his eyes to rest. He wanted to have a good night's rest to prepare for the battle tomorrow. Of course, he was checking his soul. He was worried about this strange soul a lot. As his soul kept changing, Yi Qinghan felt like a sharp sword was hovering above his head, slowly falling. Perhaps one day, it would send him to the Western Paradise to discuss the Tao with the Gautama Buddha. Several hours later, his eyebrows suddenly twitched and he opened his eyes. He looked at a woman who gracefully walked in and smiled. The woman had blue hair and wore a cyan palace dress. Her sapphire-like eyes shone brightly, and she was tall and slender, full of vitality. Chapter 10:25. Yi Qinghan beckoned for her to sit beside him. He even personally poured a cup of tea for her before saying with a smile, "Cherry Blossoms, are you used to living here? Tell your cousin if there's anything you lack." Cherry Blossoms did not take the tea, nor did she sit down. Instead, she jumped around in front of Yi Qinghan with her hands behind her back like a bunny. She said with a grin, "Brother-in-law, Yin Dragon City is very nice. It lacks nothing. It's very comfortable staying here. There's no pressure and I don't have to think about scheming. I'm very happy." "It's good that you're happy. If anyone bullies you, tell me. I'll stand up for you." Yi Qinghan gave a leisurely smile as he looked at his cheap sister-in-law. Thinking of how she had stood firmly behind him in South Mountain City, he felt his heart warm up. There were many people in this world who dared to love and hate, but very few people would resolutely betray a powerful family clan like the Sakura family. It was as though he was standing in Yi family castle years ago, facing Yi Tianlong and the Yi family elders in a furious rebuke. "Brother-in-law, let me tell you a secret." Suddenly, the corners of Cherry Blossom's mouth curled up as she gave a cheeky smile. She bent her body slightly and leaned in. Yi Qinghan smiled and cooperatively listened. Cherry Blossoms leaned in once again, almost reaching Yi Qinghan's ear before whispering, "Brother-in-law, I realize that I like you. Don't be in a hurry to reject me. Everyone has the right to pursue someone, right? I'll definitely win your heart. Courting a man you like is a custom of us ladies in South Mountain City." With that said, Cherry Blossoms turned around and ran off while covering her mouth. She left behind an embarrassed Yi Qinghan. As he rubbed his nose in embarrassment, Yi Qinghan recalled Fengzi from the Fire Dragon continent. He mimicked him by stroking his hair and muttered in a slightly intoxicated manner, "Sigh. Being handsome is actually a form of trouble. Cherry Blossoms, thank you for your kind intentions, but unfortunately, I can't accept it. Can I use vulgarities?" Suddenly, a ghostly voice rang out. A silhouette walked in from the side hall's entrance. The silhouette was dressed in snow-white robes, and there was a snow-white long sword hanging from his waist. He looked extremely flirtatious. Who else could it be but Xiaohei? No. Yi Qinghan did not even look at Xiaohei. In fact, while he was chatting with Cherry Blossoms, Yi Qinghan had discovered countless psyche probing them secretly. They believed that it was done in secret, but they never expected Yi Qinghan to gain insight into eternal space. He was extremely sensitive to spatial fluctuations and instantly sensed it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said something that was unacceptable. The backyard was on fire. The situation was very serious. Then I have nothing to say." Xiaohei had originally walked over with a dignified appearance, but when he heard Yi Qinghan's words, he immediately withered. He glanced around with shifty eyes as the expression on his face turned ingratiating. He looked as though he was asking for a beating. "Boss, don't be so heartless. Take me with you? I've been bored out of my mind in Godseal Valley for the past 600 years. Yi Qinghan glared coldly at Xiaohei and shook his head. However, he sent a voice transmission. "Xiaohei, you are thinking of going out to flirt with beauties, right? My parents gave birth to me, and the one who knows me best is my boss." Xiaohei chuckled as he sent a voice transmission. Then, he frowned and wore a bitter expression. The speed at which his expression changed was comparable to Emperor Yi's. He looked pitifully at Yi Qinghan and sent a voice transmission. "Boss, it's all your fault. Shue'er is afraid that I will learn bad things from you. For the past 600 years, as long as I leave Godseal Valley, I have never left my side. I even have thoughts of dying." Looking at the resentful expression on Xiaohei's face, Yi Qinghan felt both annoyed and amused as he sent a telepathic message to Xiaohei. "What's the use of you going out with me? There are not many people in the Starry Sea now, let alone women. It's not fun either. If your aunt finds out, she will skin me alive. It's fine if you want to go, but you can send a message to your aunt. If she agrees, I have no objections. That's what you said. Upon hearing this, Xiao Hei's eyes lit up. He immediately took out his communication jade talisman and sent a message while grinning cheekily. There are no more women in the Star Sea, but there are definitely beauties in the legions this time, right? Yes, he. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes and ignored it. He closed his eyes and continued to recuperate. It was a quiet night. The next day, when Yi Qinghan opened his eyes, he saw Xiao Hei proudly waving his communication jade talisman at him. Yi Qinghan sighed helplessly. Lord Devourer really doted on Xiao Hei. The women had woken up early. Due to his promise, Yi Qinghan had to stand up for Xiao Hei and talk to Li Shuai. With a righteous face, Xiao Hei, who was ready to fight for humanity to the last drop of his essence, entered the transporting formation and headed to the 10,000 Waters City. The square of the 10,000 Waters City was now crowded with people. They were not the residents of the 10,000 Waters City, but the official army. With a glance, Yi Qinghan found that they were all elites of the official army, and the weakest among them was a 5th-grade war god. At first glance, he could see a dense crowd of people. The snow-white sabers in their hands reflected a cold white light under the light of the rising sun. The ethereal army, which had been transferred from the various mansions, had obviously been teleported over last night. They were ready to follow Yi Qinghan and Kid on an expedition to the Star Sea. Swoosh! The space around Yi Qinghan fluctuated. Many venerables teleported and got down on one knee, shouting in unison, "Greetings, Frigid Knight Sovereign! Greetings, Frigid Knight Sovereign!" The misty army on the square knelt down one by one like rice being blown by the wind. Loud shouts resounded, shaking the sky of Wanshui City. Yi Qinghan's face was cold. Xiao Hei, who was next to him, also looked solemn. They did not dare to make trouble in such a situation. The one who knelt at the front was a middle-aged man who looked as steady as a mountain, but had an ethereal temperament. He raised his head to look at Yi Qinghan and said calmly, "Frigid Knight Sovereign, Lord Jida will be here soon. Please go up and say a few words." Yi Qinghan nodded and did not act coy. He slowly flew up into the air and faced the tens of millions of Star Army soldiers below. He amplified his divine power and shouted, "In the Star Sea, there are countless demons who are trying to turn the divine realm into another demon realm. They want to turn our people, our families, and our children into walking corpses. They want to destroy our cities and trample on our homes. Tell me, do you agree? Do the sabers in your hands agree?" "No." The answer to Yi Qinghan was an extremely orderly shout that shook the sky. Countless white sabers were waved up and down in an orderly manner. The cold, murderous aura froze the air in the city. Yi Qinghan nodded. He was very satisfied with the quality of the ethereal army. He smiled gently and continued to say loudly, "While killing the enemy bravely, I have a very strict requirement for you. That is, to come back alive. Kill the enemy bravely and come back alive. Kill the enemy bravely and come back alive. Kill the enemy bravely and come back alive." Along with 3 loud roars, Jida's figure quietly appeared beside Yi Qinghan. Jida looked at the ethereal lord, who was full of morale and was very satisfied. He nodded to Yi Qinghan. They waved their hands at the same time and shouted angrily, "Let's go. Our target is the Star Sea." Yi Qinghan, Jida, and Xiao Hei took the lead and flew in front. Countless venerables followed closely behind. Then, the tens of millions of ethereal army soldiers rose into the sky one by one, forming a huge dragon that covered the sky. In the end, this dragon turned into an arrow formation and shot into the Star Sea like a sharp arrow. In the distant Star Sea, the seawater was still blood red. However, the originally clear sky above the sea was now covered with dark clouds. They were like ferocious demons that wanted to devour everything. Chapter 10:26. Star Ocean, Internal Ocean. The Supreme Island was still guarded by the 9 guardian islands like 9 divine dragons. All 10 islands had their barriers activated, especially Supreme Island. The barrier on the island was colorful and extremely dazzling. Not only was the barrier beautiful, but a small portion of the people in the realm of the divinity knew that this barrier was the strongest in the realm of the divinity. It was the only barrier in the realm of the divinity that could withstand an attack from a 9th-grade expert. Moreover, this was something that had been proven. The person who did it was said to be the Star Monarch himself. At this moment, the giant island under the colorful barrier was filled with people. They were all from the Star Army. Most of the Star Army was sitting cross-legged in the wild. At first glance, the whole island was filled with people. Supreme Island was huge. It was almost 1/3 of the size of the ethereal continent. Yet, the wilderness on such a huge island was filled with people. One could imagine how many martial artists there were on Supreme Island. Supreme City Governor's office. The huge hall was filled with people. If there were outsiders around, they would definitely be shocked, because there were more than 50 people sitting in the hall, and all of them were venerables. These were the true secrets of the Star Ocean. All 50 of them were wearing the God of War robe. The one sitting at the top was Li Kong, who was as fat as an elephant. Li Kong's entire body fell into the lion chair. The fat on his face caused his eyes to narrow into a slit. No one could tell what he was thinking. The hall was silent and oppressive. All the venerables looked at Li Kong. They looked at his fat body and his narrowed eyes. Countless people felt that Li Kong's appearance was meant to give off an imposing and unfathomable feeling, especially when he didn't speak and just sat there quietly. A mountain-like pressure came at them, making it hard for them to breathe. "Sir," after sitting like that for a long time, one of the venerables finally couldn't take it anymore. He stood up and shouted at Li Kong, "Monarch, is there still no decree? If we don't fight now, we will become the sinners of humankind." "We are already sinners." A brown-haired venerable took over and sighed heavily. His eyes dimmed as he closed his eyes and raised his head. How many people can escape from the 108,000 islands of the Starry Sea this time? Many venerables were killed by Yi Qinghan. Without venerables to lead the way, can they escape? The brown-haired venerable's words made the rage on everyone's faces intensify. More people stood up and stared at Li Kong with burning eyes. Before the arrival of the devils, these venerables and tens of billions of star soldiers were all stationed on 9 Guardians Island. When the devils descended in large numbers, these venerables immediately requested to go out and suppress the devils. In the end, they received a message from Li Kong, asking everyone on the 9 Guardians Island to retreat to the Supreme Island. This order was baffling, but Li Kong said that it was the Star Monarch's order. All the venerables stopped doubting him. They led the cultivators and the Star Army on the outpost islets in a Supreme Island. In the end, after they entered, the Supreme Island shield was activated again. They couldn't get out even if they wanted to. The Star Monarch didn't pass down any orders. Dozens of venerables and tens of billions of Star Army stayed on Supreme Island. They watched as countless devils wreaked havoc on the Starry Sea and watched as the sky of the Starry Sea turned darker and darker. Today, all the venerables finally couldn't take it anymore. They came to the city lord's residence together to demand an explanation from Li Kong, who knew that after everyone talked for a while, Li Kong just sat there motionlessly, as if he had fallen asleep. "Sir, I suggest that we meet the monarch and ask for his opinion." "Yes. If we don't fight now, how are we going to show our faces in the realm of the gods in the future? If the devils continue to descend, the entire realm of the gods will be destroyed. What's the point of us staying here? Everyone, we didn't do anything to Yi Qinghan during the battle outside Seoul Emperor Island. Our reputation has reached the lowest point in history. If we don't fight now, how are we going to show our faces in the realm of the gods in the future? We might as well enter a secret realm and be a turtle." Li Kong didn't say anything. The venerables below became even more rowdy. Ever since Yi Qinghan declared war, Star Ocean's reputation had fallen. Everyone was furious. Since when did Star Ocean, which was once the center of the realm of the gods, fall to such a state? Cough! Finally, a light cough was heard. All the venerables immediately shut their mouths and looked at the huge figure at the top. The muscles on Li Kong's face twitched slightly. He opened his eyes a slit and swept a cold glance across everyone's faces. Before saying leisurely, I said 3 points. If you want to continue making trouble, feel free to do so. Firstly, the monarch said that the realm of the gods won't be destroyed. Everyone can rest assured about that. Secondly, Star Ocean is still the strongest force in the realm of the gods. Of course, that'll have to wait for the monarch to come out of seclusion. The monarch will take back the honor that Star Ocean lost. Thirdly, Supreme Island will not be opened before the monarch comes out of seclusion. The monarch said that if anyone is unwilling to be left out, then send them to the netherworld to have some fun. Are you all clear? As soon as Li Kong finished speaking, a chill rose in the hall and quickly spread. The Star Monarch's decisiveness in killing had always been famous in the realm of the gods. He would definitely do what he said. No one dared to raise any objections. Their eyes moved as they started to ponder the deeper meaning behind Li Kong's words. No matter what everyone thought, at least Supreme Island calmed down. No one dared to challenge the Star Monarch's authority. Although so many people were trapped on an island, and no one knew how long it would last, they could only force themselves to cultivate in seclusion. Star Ocean's inner sea was very strange. No demons attacked. No demons even stepped into the inner sea. If Star Ocean was a copper plate, the inner sea would be the hole. The hole was surrounded by demons, and outside the copper plate, countless armies were charging towards the hole. Yi Qinghan and Jida were the strongest army in the east. The two didn't do anything. They just controlled the overall situation. Dozens of supremacies were the vanguard, and the army was divided into countless small arrowheads. They followed the leading supremacies and formed a fan shape, advancing towards the dark Star Ocean. There were only some low-level demons at the periphery. The highest level was just some Shura. They didn't even see a Shura king. They advanced very quickly at the start, and there were no casualties. Yi Qinghan and Jida weren't in a hurry. Actually, with their strength, they could advance 1,000,000 miles in a day. If the two of them attacked, they could easily kill a large number of demons. But the two didn't attack. Fighting demons wasn't something that could be done in a day or two. Also, capturing the leader was something that could be done by the free people. What they needed to do was to control the tens of millions of martial artists below so that they could continuously clean up and suppress the demons, cleaning up all the surrounding demons without missing a single one. Above the sea, Jida and Yi Qinghan stood proudly in midair. The sounds of fighting and the roars of the demons were endless. Jida turned a deaf ear to them and smiled at Yi Qinghan beside him. Little Han, do you know why the demon realm is attacking the divine realm wave after wave? Yi Qinghan shook his head. His gaze swept across Xiao He, who was chatting with a female martial artist. He turned and asked, can't the demons of the demon realm be killed? How many demons die in baleful Stream every year? And now, they can still stop such a strong attack. Of course they can't be killed. Jida smiled coldly. Little Han, don't you remember the monster emperor under your command? His descendants are all born from him. As long as the monster emperor doesn't die, there will be an endless stream of demon beasts. The same goes for demons. Shura can constantly give birth to demons, and then the demons will continue to evolve and become Shura. Moreover, the demon realm is 10 times larger than the divine realm. Do you think you can kill them all? This time, the demons are so tenacious in attacking the divine realm, and countless Shura kings are coming. Actually, a small part of the reason is because of you. Because of me? Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and looked at Jida. It didn't seem like he was joking. Instead, his gaze landed on the ring on his finger. He suddenly realized that Jida was here for the slaughter god saber. He asked curiously, what's the other reason? A complicated look flashed in Jida's eyes as he said, it's for their ancestor devil, the owner of your slaughter god saber. Chapter 10:27. Ancestral Devil. Yi Qinghan recalled what the pavilion branch master had said when he went to the battle god pavilion of the Soul Devourer Manor. This saber belonged to the sovereign evil demon, and this sovereign evil demon had been suppressed by the three pavilion masters of the battle god pavilion. It seemed like the evil demons had descended so crazily because they wanted to rescue this sovereign evil demon. Big Brother Jida, do these Azura Kings and Devil Monarchs have any special abilities? After pondering for a while, Yi Qing'an asked, "Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. If you don't understand the situation now, you'll be a laughingstock if you panic when you meet the Azura Kings. The Azura Kings are better. They have an immortal body. When you attack them, don't stop. Keep attacking until their bodies are smashed into pieces. The Devil Monarchs are very troublesome. As long as there is demonic energy in the heaven and earth essence energy, they can revive continuously. Furthermore, the demonic energy in their bodies can corrode the power source. Therefore, no matter how many supremacies there are, they will still die when they meet the Devil Monarchs. Only we can use the power of space to suppress them. Furthermore, we need to use restrictions to suppress them permanently," Jida said solemnly. When he saw Yi Qinghan frown, he patted his shoulder and said, "Don't worry. If we meet the Devil Monarchs, Lord Qingshan, the Ice Queen, and Lord Diawu will help. They all know about restrictions and can suppress ordinary Devil Monarchs easily. Therefore, our mission this time is not very difficult. Dealing with the Azura Kings is very simple." Yi Qing'an nodded. However, he was pondering in his heart. Lord Devourer asked him to use the Slaughter God Saber more often when dealing with the evil demons. It seemed like he had to secretly fight it when he had the chance. "You take a look. I will go and take a look at the situation of King Yinran and the Blood Knight Monarch's armies." Jida said a few words and teleported away. Yi Qinghan continued to stand quietly in midair, but her divine senses were sweeping in all directions. She was watching the intense crossfire from all sides. Swish! When Xiao He saw Jida teleport away, he quickly flew up and stood beside Yi Qinghan. He laughed like a fool. Yi Qinghan's divine sense continued to patrol around. Without turning his head, he asked in a low voice, "What's wrong? Did you pick up a treasure?" Xiao He giggled again. He then glanced at the few female martial artists below and winked at Yi Qinghan. Then he quietly said, "Boss, I find that Sir Xiao He is very popular. Many women are very enthusiastic about Sir Xiao He. Heh, a few girls even hinted at me to go on a date with me when I return. F***CK. Yi Qinghan nearly smacked him on the head. Helplessness filled his eyes. He looked coldly at the female cultivators below, scaring them into withdrawing their gazes and continuing to watch the battle in front of them. Only then did Yi Qinghan reply, "Idiot. Xiao He, have you forgotten your identity? As long as your aunt and I are here, even if you're a pig, there will be girls willing to marry you. If you really want to pursue a girl, you should conceal your identity and use your charm to conquer them." "Oh, I got it, boss." Xiao He wasn't a fool. As soon as Yi Qinghan said that, he understood it. At this moment, he recalled that those female warriors had told Yi Qinghan that they would ask about Yi Qinghan and Lord Devourer. Now he felt bored. All of a sudden, Yi Qinghan arched his brows, his face stern. He shouted at Xiao He, "Xiao He, back off. Go to the central formation. A big fish is coming. I'm going to meet him." Then, Yi Qinghan's body faded, and a big face appeared in the sky. Then, the face changed, turning into a massive hand that pounded the sky on the left. This hand wasn't as big as the one on Soul Emperor Island. Apparently, Yi Qinghan had reserved his power, not using all of his space power. Yi Qinghan understood clearly that he had used all of his space power on Soul Emperor Island. After that, he had been unconscious for more than half a month. Moreover, at this moment, there was only one Azura King. He wanted to test its power first. The warriors down there woke up in just a blink of an eye. The God Emperor warriors on the side where Yi Qinghan had just slapped retreated. Then, the Venerables teleported, dashing toward that side. Thud! Yi Qinghan's palms swept past, and the demon chi in that direction was like ice and snow meeting a red-hot iron pincer. With an unstoppable force, it tore a large hole in the dark sky in front of it. The devils, demon kings, and asuras that the giant hand encountered turned to dust as soon as it touched them. The powerful space power crushed everything. Like a tear in a piece of black cloth, a huge figure appeared in the black fog ahead. It was several hundred meters tall, and its body was covered in tiny black scales. Each scale was triangular and arranged in a very strange way. Its body seemed to be surrounded by small snake-like scars. It was a ghastly sight at first glance. There were 6 sharp claws on its fingers, and black energy swirled around them. There were rows of spikes on its back, and at the bottom of the spine, there was a thick and long tail. There were far fewer scales on its head, and it didn't have ferocious teeth. Its eyes weren't blood red, but black and white like a human's. It was just that the evil and cold intent within was enough to make one's soul shiver. It also strangely had no devil horns on its head. If it wasn't for the black energy it spat out from time to time, and the evil feeling it gave off, others might have thought it was a special race of the divine realm. Everyone only glanced at the Azura king, but they were secretly startled. Then, that giant palm came crashing down. The palm that Yi Qinghan condensed was at most a fifth of his full strength. It was much smaller than it was on Seoul Emperor Island. Thus it only covered the upper half of the abyssal's body. Thud! The Azura king was smashed down like a clay figurine by a giant stick. The several hundred-meter-tall Azura king didn't even have time to roar before its upper body above its abdomen was smashed apart by Yi Qinghan's palm. The giant palm didn't stop. It continued to rush forwards, cutting open another deep hole in the black cloth that covered the sky. Whoosh! The 4 supremacies in the front were stunned for a moment before they immediately rushed towards the Azura king's upper body. The 4 supremacies' source power surrounded the Azura king and attacked the 2 giant legs at the same time. Without waiting for the Azura king to condense its body, the 2 giant legs were smashed into pieces and the Azura king was completely killed. Yi Qinghan didn't move as he recovered his mind power. At the same time, he continued to investigate. In his heart, he heaved a sigh of relief. This Azura king looked very aggressive. If he used 1/3 of his spatial power, he would be able to kill it instantly. With Jita by his side, the 2 of them could take turns to attack. Even if they encountered a group of Azura kings, with the help of these supremacies, it shouldn't be a problem. As they continued to investigate with their divine senses, Yi Qinghan flew down from the sky. A long black slaughter god saber suddenly appeared in his hand. His body's source power revolved around it, and like a dragon, he rushed towards an Azura in front of him. Since Lord Devour said to use the slaughter god saber more, then he would use it more. He wanted to see how powerful the slaughter god saber was. Chapter 10:28. Yi Qinghan's attack attracted the attention of countless people. Tens of millions of martial artists. The battle line wasn't very long at this moment. Only millions of martial artists were gradually advancing, with a central army at the rear ready to support them at any time. At this moment, the monarch attacked again. Everyone looked curiously, their divine sense locked on, hoping to comprehend something from Yi Qinghan's attack. But many people couldn't understand Yi Qinghan's attack. Yi Qinghan's entire body was surrounded by the power of origin to protect his body. His attack seemed very simple, but with a casual slash, the Azura in front of him instantly turned into powder and began to corrode. Yi Qinghan was very strong, there was no doubt about this, but why did his attack on the Azura's arm turn into powder? Was the power too great? Was it shattered? It had to be, otherwise it was hard to explain this strange imagination. Countless low-level martial artists looked at Yi Qinghan with fiery eyes. Watching Yi Qinghan in front of him, like a swimming dragon, rushing left and right, a long black saber, everything that came into contact with it instantly turned into powder, unstoppable. They couldn't help but feel their blood boil. Of course, there were some knowledgeable people who saw through the mystery and stared at the saber in Yi Qinghan's hand. Many people recognized this saber, but no one dared to use it because the two venerables who used this saber in the past both died, dying of madness. This was not a rumor, but a fact that shocked the divine realm. Many great clans had records of this, because these two were famous venerables of the divine realm. Moreover, a monarch of the divine realm had clearly said that besides people from the demon world, this weapon would definitely kill anyone from the divine realm. Many people knew that Yi Qinghan had used this saber for a long time without the slightest harm. They all sighed inwardly. Frigid Night Monarch was indeed strong, worthy of being the #1 freak of the divine realm. Look at the demonic weapon that no one in the divine realm dared to use. Wasn't it used very well in his hands? After half an hour, Yi Qinghan withdrew his saber and continued to stand in the air, letting everyone continue to attack. In just half an hour, Yi Qinghan swept through a large number of demon Azuras. His efficiency was much higher than the Venerables. Of course, if he used spatial power, it would be even faster. "Boss, are you all right?" Yi Qinghan was expressionless, but Xiao He and Xiao He knew very well. Of Xiao He, Yi Qinghan's soul was clearly aware. Of Qi of killing intent was already in Xiao He of Yi Qinghan, but Yi Qinghan. Of course, this bit of baleful aura was nothing to Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan's current soul was incomparably powerful. 600 years had passed. Although his soul had shrunk, its strength had increased by a lot. If Yi Qinghan held the saber, he would be affected by the qi of killing intent in the saber, and his eyes would immediately turn bloodshot. At this moment, if he continued to kill, in another 2 hours, he would definitely completely enter the crazed state he had in the baleful Yin stream. Of course, Yi Qinghan would not allow himself to enter that state. Although he might not be in danger, his main duty was not to kill the enemy, but to guard the place. Moreover, he was a sovereign now, so he had to maintain his demeanor. Therefore, he accepted the saber. After a short while, the qi of killing intent in Yi Qinghan's mind was completely eliminated. As he was about to attack again, Jita returned. Yi Qinghan hurriedly smiled and inquired about the situation. Jita laughed. In the northeast, Sovereign Yinran is leading the warriors of the Grace mainland and the 100,000 ice guards of the Ice and Snow Island. They are slowly advancing. In the southeast are the people of the Blood Knight Sovereign. Lord Qingshan is leading the 18,000 Green Mountain Iron Cavalry to the south. Yi Qinghan frowned slightly. 18,000 Green Mountain Iron Cavalry? So few people? Jita laughed. Don't look down on these 18,000 Green Mountain Iron Cavalry. There are at least 1,000 Venerables, and the rest are peak grade 7. Moreover, the warriors of the Green Mountain tribe have special skills. These 18,000 Green Mountain Iron Cavalry are all riding on Black Blood Dragon unicorns. Their combined strength is even stronger than our Misty army. Yi Qinghan was secretly shocked. The immortal world was indeed filled with crouching tigers and hidden dragons. The two of them did not speak anymore. Yi Qinghan asked Jita to guard the place while he continued to take out the Slaughter God Blade and attack the demons. When Jita saw Yi Qinghan using the Slaughter God Blade, his eyes lit up and he sighed. However, he did not say anything. He did not ask Yi Qinghan anything either. Gradually, the opening that the Misty army created became bigger and bigger. The entire Misty army, except for a portion of the reserve army, stretched out the battle line and joined the battle to kill the demons. Yi Qinghan completely handed the task of controlling the army to Jita while he was busy killing the demons. Every time the evil aura started to gather in his mind, he would stop attacking. After clearing the evil aura in his soul spirit, he would continue to attack. A few days later, Yi Qinghan realized that the black line in his mind did not show any signs of spreading. There were no changes in his body. Other than the lightning that constantly struck his soul spirit, it was still the same. Thus, he continued to attack with ease. 1 month later, the Misty Army's battle line started to shorten. The entire army had already advanced 1,000,000 miles. On the left side, they had already connected with the Blood Knight army. On the right side, the God Grace army was in sight. The entire Star Sea had already been surrounded by the immortal world's army. Furthermore, this encirclement was constantly shrinking. Yi Qinghan gently slashed an Azura into pieces with his blade. Then, he suddenly retracted his blade and rapidly retreated. There was no expression on his face, but there was a flash of surprise in his eyes. His hand gently caressed the Slaughter God blade. Just now, he suddenly had a feeling that the Slaughter God blade seemed to have come to life and even let out a soft cry. After muttering to himself for a moment, he carefully penetrated the blade with his divine senses. SSAO. Once his divine senses entered the blade, Yi Qinghan felt as though he had entered a scene from Azura Hell. There were actually countless ghost-shaped monsters inside. Their bodies were translucent, and they looked very sinister and terrifying. However, they did not look like demons. Furthermore, these ghost-shaped monsters were actually killing and devouring each other. Yi Qinghan's divine senses only stayed inside for a moment, and his soul spirit actually felt a chill. Then his entire body felt a little cold. One could imagine how strange the monsters inside were. Yi Qinghan did not dare to continue killing. These few days, he had already lost count of how many demon Azuras he had killed. Lord Devour had said that the more you use a blade, the more powerful it becomes. Now that the Slaughter God blade had changed, perhaps Lord Devour's words had been verified. After returning to Jida's side, Yi Qinghan did not say anything. He only silently sensed the Slaughter God blade, and Jida also did not ask much. He knew that Yi Qinghan had many strange things on him. If he did not say anything, it would not be good for him to find out. Half a day later, the ghost-shaped monsters inside were still killing and devouring each other. However, there were much fewer of them now. One day later, Yi Qinghan realized that the number of ghost-shaped monsters inside had increased to 5. However, every single one of them looked extremely powerful and had a terrifying aura. When Yi Qinghan's divine senses probed inside, he felt his entire body turn cold. The 5 ghost-shaped monsters continued to attack and kill each other. If it wasn't for the fact that these 5 monsters had no intention of attacking Yi Qinghan's divine senses, Yi Qinghan would have heard Lord Devour's words and used his origin energy to destroy them. AO! 3 days later, a deafening roar sounded out from the Slaughter God blade in Yi Qinghan's hand. At the same time, the Slaughter God blade emitted a blinding white light. The martial artists who were enveloped by this light instantly felt their bodies turn cold. Their bodies could not move at all. Even Jida felt a slightly oppressive aura coming from the Slaughter God blade. His face turned solemn. Yi Qinghan looked at the Slaughter God blade in his hand. His eyes were filled with shock. However, his eyes were burning with passion as he exclaimed, "Is the evolution finally complete?" Chapter 10:29. The specter in the Slaughter God saber had turned into one. The sound that came from the gigantic specter that had swallowed all the specters was from that gigantic specter. This specter was very powerful. Just by looking at Jida's expression, one could tell that it was very powerful. However, Yi Qinghan did not mind. He felt that the specter in the saber did not have any evil intentions towards him. In fact, it felt like it was connected to his flesh and blood. Weapon spirit? Yi Qinghan frowned. The Slaughter God saber was a transcendent grade divine weapon. There was no doubt about this. However, it did not have a weapon spirit. Now, a specter had appeared because it had killed the demon Azuras. From the looks of it, the Slaughter God saber seemed to have become even more powerful. Could it have developed a weapon spirit? Big Brother Jida, let me try. This saber seems to have undergone some changes. Yi Qinghan turned and said to Jida. Jida looked at the saber worriedly and said, "If you cannot control it completely, it is best to destroy it. After all, this is something from the evil devil world." Yi Qinghan nodded. His source energy revolved around his body. Then he rushed forward into the demonic aura. However, he did not attack. He only used his hand, which was imbued with his source energy, to send the attacking demons flying. After rushing 100 miles into the Slaughter God saber, Yi Qinghan made sure that the divine senses of the martial artists outside could not enter. Then, he injected his power into the slaughter god's saber and activated the specter in it. Hiss! The slaughter god's saber let out a hissing sound. The saber trembled and emitted a blinding white light. When the demonic aura in the surroundings came into contact with this white light, it instantly disappeared without a trace. With Yi Qinghan as the center, a white shield with a circumference of several miles appeared around her. Within the white shield, the devil chi had completely disappeared without a trace, and there were dozens of devil kings and asuras shivering in midair. In front of the slaughter god's saber, a gigantic specter suddenly appeared. It was like a king as it stood proudly in midair. After that, it turned into a gust of wind and swept in all directions. This, Yi Qinghan was tongue-tied. As the wind swept past, the dozens of abyssal asuras within the white shields around him were directly reduced to dust. Before Yi Qinghan could react, the specter condensed on the spot and showed a flattering expression to Yi Qinghan, as if it was a guard dog raised at home, waiting for Yi Qinghan's praise. Go! Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment. With a thought, the specter turned into a gust of wind and rushed forward. It covered an area of dozens of meters. As long as the black wind blew past, the demonic aura would instantly disappear without a trace, and the demon asuras in front of it would also be instantly killed. The effect of the black wind's attack was actually stronger than his will attack. However, this specter seemed to be unable to stray too far away from the slaughter god's saber. It only moved forward for a few miles before retreating. It continued to show a flattering smile to Yi Qinghan, causing Yi Qinghan's hair to stand on end. With another thought, the specter flew out again and continued to pounce forward, easily killing hundreds of demon asuras in an instant. This time, Yi Qinghan could no longer remain calm. He immediately flew back the way he came from. Although his heart was filled with shock, he did not show it on his face. Jita nodded his head, and Jita did not ask anything. Yi Qinghan took out his communication jade talisman and started to send a message to Lord Devour. The slaughter god saber had an artifact spirit, and it was a super powerful artifact spirit that looked like a specter. It was not strange for a transcendent grade artifact spirit to appear. What was strange was that this artifact spirit's attack was actually stronger than willpower. In other words, this specter's attack was comparable to a grade 9 artifact spirit. In other words, even if this specter's strength was not comparable to a demon monarch's, it was not far from it. If the specter continued to grow stronger, if the specter could no longer be controlled, if this specter betrayed them, if this powerful specter was not controlled properly, it would definitely be able to instantly kill the hundreds of thousands of misty army soldiers around him. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had a strong urge to destroy this slaughter god saber so that this specter would not have a place to reside. Then it would disappear from this world. The slaughter god saber was a great killing weapon, a double-edged sword. It could kill enemies, but it could also injure oneself. Thus, he immediately sent a message to Lord Devour. He told her everything in detail. If Lord Devour sent a message to destroy the slaughter god saber, then she would immediately destroy it. Lord Devour's reply was very quick. There were only a few words. Make a trip back to soul-devouring city. Yi Qinghan did not hesitate and gave a few instructions to Jita. When Jita heard that Yi Qinghan was returning to soul-devouring city, she did not say anything else. After that, Yi Qinghan asked Xiaohe to follow Jita while he used Netherworld Drip Spring to teleport back to soul-devouring city. Netherworld Drip Spring teleported at full speed and quickly returned to the Myriad Water Manor. Yi Qinghan asked Supremacy Drip Spring to wait in the Myriad Water Manor while he teleported to soul-devouring city alone. When Yi Qinghan released the specter from the slaughter god saber on the rooftop, even Lord Devour's brows furrowed slightly. Lord Jiao, who was beside him, felt a chill run down her spine. She did not even dare to breathe loudly. This doesn't look like a demon monarch or a product of the demon world. Instead, it looks like a monster from the Netherworld realm. However, it doesn't look like the Netherworld realm. This is strange. When you killed the devil, why did such a weapon spirit appear? Lord Devour waved his hand, and the pressure on Lord Geo instantly disappeared. However, when she saw the monster in midair, her heart was still filled with fear. Lord Devour waved his hand and took the Slaughter God saber from Yi Qinghan's hands. The netherworld realm in midair instantly bared its teeth and released a powerful aura. It was about to pounce on Lord Devour. Lord Devour casually waved his hand, and a water-like ripple appeared in the air. The specter in midair looked as though it had been hit by a giant hammer and was sent flying. Yi Qinghan hurriedly used his thoughts to try and control the netherworld realm so that it would not act rashly. In the end, the netherworld realm actually flew back obediently and looked at Yi Qinghan with a flattering expression. It seemed as though it was laughing foolishly in silence. Lord Devour's divine senses probed the Slaughter God's saber for a moment before carefully observing the specter. After a moment of silence, he said, "I originally thought that after this saber killed so many devils and absorbed so much energy, it would awaken the weapon spirit hidden inside. This saber originally had the pressure of a transcendent grade divine artifact, so it should be able to deal more damage to the devils. I did not expect such a mutated weapon spirit to appear. Furthermore, from the looks of it, it seems to have some intelligence. Little Han, why are there so many strange things happening to you? Then what should we do? Destroy it?" Yi Qinghan hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth and saying, he had obtained the Slaughter God saber from the Luotian Mountain, and it had saved his life countless times. It would be a lie if he did not have any feelings for it. However, if this was a ticking time bomb that could blow up people around him at any time, Yi Qinghan could only harden his heart and destroy it. "I don't need it for now." Lord Devour shook his head and looked at the dazed specter in the sky. He became silent. After a while, Lord Devour asked Yi Qinghan to keep the specter in the Slaughter God saber. Then, he took the Slaughter God saber again. The Slaughter God saber shook and let out a soft cry. It was about to struggle free. Lord Devour coldly swept his hand, and a white stream of air covered the Slaughter God saber. The Slaughter God saber calmed down again. She said softly, "The Netherworld Realm's attack looks strong on the surface, but it is actually too weak under my willpower. Wait a moment. I will go and refine the interior of this saber. If the Netherworld Realm shows any signs of rebellion, this saber will instantly explode. This saber is the dwelling place of the specter. Once the saber is broken, the weapon spirit will immediately be destroyed." That's the best. That's the best. Yi Qinghan was elated when he heard this. If he could do that, his strength would improve further. Would Jita be able to block the direct attack of his willpower and the Netherworld Realm sneak attack? Moreover, this weapon spirit might even be able to evolve? That would be fun. Chapter 1030. Lord Devour used 3 days to refine the Slaughter God saber and instructed Yi Qinghan to continue using it to see if the specter could evolve. Of course, if anything unexpected happened, Yi Qinghan had to inform him immediately. Yi Qinghan carefully examined the interior of the Slaughter God saber and realized that there were no changes to the interior of the Slaughter God saber. The specter inside was also obediently waiting inside. Yi Qinghan used his divine sense to scan the Slaughter God saber and felt that the specter's face was flattering again. It seemed to be even more intimate with Yi Qinghan. Since Lord Devour had arranged everything, he bade farewell and left. He teleported to the Myriad Water Mansion and Li Quan before heading to the Star Sea. After Yi Qinghan left, Madame Jiu looked at Lord Devour worriedly and asked, "Lord, can your small restriction make the Slaughter God's saber explode?" For the past 3 days, Madame Jiu had been by Lord Devour's side. She knew that Lord Devour had only casually refined the Slaughter God saber for 6 hours before bringing Madame Jiu to sit in the secret chamber for 3 days. Now that Yi Qinghan had left, Madame Jiu asked curiously, "The Slaughter God saber's material is even more special than a supreme divine artifact. How can it explode so easily?" Lord Devour smiled faintly. His expression was extremely relaxed as he leisurely drank his tea. "This Madame Gio's expression changed as she thought about that terrifying specter. Lord Devour's small restriction could not explode the slaughter god saber. If the specter rebelled, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, when she saw how relaxed Lord Devour was, she did not know what to feel. Her lips moved a few times, but no words came out. After a long time, she finally said, "My lord, if that monster betrays us, it will be a big problem. Gio, you have followed me for so long. Why can't you understand? When have I ever harmed little Han?" Lord Devour looked at Madame Gio with an amused expression. He knew what Madame Gio was thinking inside. "Although I can't explode the slaughter god saber, if the specter rebelled, my restriction will activate and give little Han some time to escape. As long as little Han and Xiao He escape, I don't care about the lives of the rest." Hiss! Lord Gio sucked in a breath of cold air. Yi Qinghan rushed into the Star Sea. Lord Devour had asked him to continuously use the Slaughter God Blade to try and evolve the Spectre. If Spectre had evolved and rebelled, Yi Qinghan and Xiao He would have escaped. However, given how powerful Spectre was, it was likely that countless of the Misty army would die in an instant. Madame Nine knew that besides treating his fellows, Lord Devour was always cold-blooded and heartless. Especially to his enemies, he was like a cold wind. But who would have thought that she would be so heartless and could even be said to be vicious? Sigh, Lord Devour shook his head, his eyes resolute. He sighed deeply. "Agio, there are many things you don't understand. In your eyes, I seem to be a little vicious. You will understand in the future. This netherworld is too strange. I have to take a gamble." Lord Gio looked at Lord Devour's lonely back. Suddenly, she felt that it was a mistake to think that Lord Devour was vicious. This woman had been arranging many things in silence, moving forward alone in the dark night. She carried so much pressure, but no one understood her. Even her closest friend doubted her. Lord Devour didn't look at Lord Gio, but he seemed to know what she was thinking. He casually waved his hand, putting down the teacup. Looking at the wandering sea in the distance, a sweet smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He mumbled, "I don't need anyone to understand me. I'm just doing what I should do for that man. After I'm done, I will go and accompany him. This is enough." Lord Gio choked with sobs. She turned her head, sobbing softly, as if she didn't want Lord Devour to see her crying. Very quickly, Yi Qinghan and Venerable Li Quan returned to the Star Sea. Misty Mist's army advanced tens of thousands of miles, and the encirclement started to close. "Little Han, pay attention during this period of time." Mo Shanghuang from the northwest sent a message. Yesterday, they suffered a sudden attack from 1,000 Azura kings. If it wasn't for the Ice Queen bringing people over, their losses would have been incomparably heavy. Seeing that Yi Qinghan had arrived, Jita immediately reported the latest battle situation. Then, he looked at the Slaughter God Blade in Yi Qinghan's hand and couldn't help but ask, "This blade, is there any problem?" "It's fine." Lord Devour refined it again. Yi Qinghan nodded his head as he spoke, after which he transmitted a few words to Blackie and continued to rush into the black fog. He was prepared to use the Slaughter God Blade as much as he could so that he could completely understand and control this blade. If he could master this blade, it would be a great help to him. He released his divine sense and used the spatial fluctuations to sense the situation in the surroundings. Yi Qinghan was extremely cautious as he surveyed the situation in the surroundings. He didn't know how to teleport. If he was surrounded by the Azura kings or met a devil monarch, it would be troublesome. "Come out, spirit," following which, Yi Qinghan swung his Slaughter God Blade in front of him, and a few meters tall, translucent figure appeared. However, its face was translucent, and one could see its eyes, nose, and mouth clearly. It looked like a human but also like a beast. It was extremely strange. After the spirit appeared, it didn't attack. It only opened its mouth and squinted its eyes. It looked like a dog slave. With a thought from Yi Qinghan, the spirit instantly expanded and turned into a gust of wind that swept in all directions. It killed all the evil demons and Azura that were trembling in fear. Then, it condensed on the spot and pouted its mouth as if it hadn't eaten its fill. With a thought from Yi Ching Han, the spirit slowed down and rushed towards a devil king in the distance. At the same time, his divine sense locked onto the spirit and observed it carefully. With a look, he was shocked again. When the specter attacked the devil king, it only used its translucent body to wrap around the devil king. As soon as it touched the devil king's body seemed to be corroded, turning into demonic aura that was instantly absorbed by the specter. Devour. Yi Ching Han recalled a book that he had flipped through in Floating City. There was a description of the Nether Realm's creatures. The Nether Realm's Nether Realm also had the same ability. When it attacked its enemies, it would envelop them and slowly corrode them. Finally, it would devour them and turn them into its own energy. However, wasn't his weapon soul devouring too fast? It was almost an instant kill. If the Nether Realm fought against human martial artists, would it have the same ability? And Yi Ching Han suddenly raised his eyebrows and swept his gaze to the right. A cold smile appeared on his face. From the black fog on the right, a low roar came along with a strong pressure. An Azura king had arrived. Just in time. This was a good chance to test out the might of the Nether Realm. If it could really instantly kill an Azura king, then this Nether Realm would truly be heaven-defying. Go! The spirit that had been smiling foolishly in front of Yi Ching Han all this time suddenly received Yi Ching Han's order and immediately turned into a gust of wind. Without any fear, it rushed towards the right. And on the other side, a massive dark blue figure was faintly discernible as it rushed towards Lin Ming like a bolt of lightning. Chapter 1031. Yi Ching Han had one side of his soul sense lock onto the specter, while the other side used the power of space to sense the surrounding situation. The nearby abyssal Azuras didn't dare to move, as they sensed the aura of the specter and the Azura king. The situation was clear. Nether aggressively rushed towards the Azura king, not fearing it at all. It was as if this colossus in front of him was no different from an ordinary little demon. On the other hand, the several hundred-meter-tall Azura king revealed a hint of dread in its icy, cold eyes. Without hesitation, it hurtled towards Nether. Nether turned into a ghostly wind and collided with the Azura king in the next second. There wasn't a fierce collision, but rather, it was like a giant fist smashing into cotton. Nether also revealed his true form and began to tangle with the Azura king. The Azura king's demonic energy shot out from its body. As long as a human martial artist touched this demonic energy, they would instantly be demonized. But as this demonic energy struck the specter, it was directly swallowed up by the specter. The Azura king brandished its claws and waved its sharp claws and thick thighs, attacking the specter with no effect at all. This situation was like a martial artist falling into the sea. The martial artist stretched out his fists and legs and smashed them into the water, but besides causing a splash, there was no response at all. Nether didn't attack the Azura king like it did the abyssal Azura king and corrode its body. Instead, it constantly swallowed up the demonic energy emitting from the Azura king's body. From the outside, it looked like two vixens were fighting. You grabbed my arm, and I pulled your hair, neither side able to do anything to the other. Yi Ching Han's eyes shined. Although it seemed as if the specter couldn't do anything to the Azura king, Yi Ching Han knew that if this continued, then the one to win would be the specter. This was because the specter was constantly swallowing up the Azura king's demonic energy. Demonic energy was the foundation of all life forms in the demon world. When the Azura king's demonic energy was completely swallowed up, the Azura king's death would come. However, Yi Ching Han also felt a bit regretful. This specter's striking power seemed formidable at the start, sweeping away all the abyssal Azuras. Yi Ching Han had thought that his striking power had reached the level of a demon monarch, but looking at the current situation, his comprehensive strength should only be above that of an Azura king. However, this specter seemed to have a very special ability. When the creatures of the demon realm attacked it, It almost didn't die, and it seemed like nothing had happened at all. He didn't know if he could smash it to death with the power of space. Less than an hour later, the Azura King's struggling speed began to slow down, and its body began to wither. As for the ghost, its eyes became increasingly bright. It opened its massive mouth and revealed a ferocious expression. The aura around its body became increasingly terrifying. After another moment, the Azura King's body began to fade away. With a deep roar that struck the heart, the Azura King completely faded away. Ghost let out a sinister laugh that reverberated in the surroundings. He swept his gaze across the surrounding demons and Azuras, and finally condensed in front of Yi Qinghan with a fawning and silly smile. "Dog thing!" Seeing this smiling face, Yi Qinghan felt disgusted and cursed softly. However, that smiling face became even more cheerful, as though Yi Qinghan was praising it. Yi Qinghan used his divine senses to carefully examine the ghost's body again. He discovered that the ghost had swallowed an Azura King, but there were no changes. He didn't know if this ghost could continue to evolve or if it needed more demons to evolve. Laugh, laugh, laugh. You only know how to laugh. In the future, I will call you Dog Thing. Lord Devour had refined the slaughter god saber again, so Yi Qinghan didn't have any scruples anymore. He continued to let the ghost hunt the demons without restraint. He hoped that this monster could swallow more demons and increase its striking power. He waved his hand and shouted, "Dog Thing, attack at will and swallow all the demons in the vicinity." After wandering in the black fog for a day, the ghost with the nickname Dog Thing swallowed countless demons and Azuras. However, it didn't encounter any Azura Kings. On the contrary, almost all the demons and Azuras in Yi Qinghan's direction were killed. This greatly reduced the pressure on the ethereal mist army. Buzz! The two figures beside Yi Qinghan gradually condensed. Yi Qinghan didn't mind and smiled at them. Yi Qinghan stayed in the evil aura for a whole day. Through the power of space, the ethereal mist monarch could roughly sense Yi Qinghan's figure. However, Xiaohe was anxious. Ever since Xiaohe turned into a human, Yi Qinghan had nothing to do. Under normal circumstances, he would cut off the soul connection with Xiaohe so that Xiaohe could control his own life. Xiaohe didn't know about Yi Qinghan's situation, so he begged the ethereal mist monarch to bring him here. Jita also felt strange. What was Yi Qinghan doing? Coincidentally, he brought Xiaohe over, and the two of them teleported over. However, when they saw the huge gust of wind in front of them, they got a shock. Jita was still fine, but Xiaohe's mouth was wide open in disbelief. A gust of wind wantonly flowed through the black fog in front of them. Everywhere it passed, not a single blade of grass grew. It was like a big brush covered in white paint was brushing back and forth on a black cloth. The Demon King Azura watched helplessly as the wind corroded and swallowed them. The speed of the wind was even faster than a machine gun firing at the refugees. "Bo! Boss, what is that?" Xiaohe looked at the indifferent Yi Qinghan and shouted in fear. Halfway through his sentence, he hurriedly lowered his voice, as if he was afraid of disturbing the monster in front of him. "Little Han." Jita's eyes flashed with a trace of shock. Then he thought for a while and asked, "Is this the Slaughter God Blade's artifact spirit?" "You dog, come over." Yi Qinghan smiled at the two of them and shouted into the distance. The gust of wind immediately changed direction and blew towards Yi Qinghan. Then it condensed in front of Yi Qinghan and looked at Jita and Xiaohe with a murderous aura. Then it immediately changed its expression and smiled foolishly at Yi Qinghan. Its face was filled with flattery. Xiaohe and Jita were dumbfounded and tongue-tied. They had seen the artifact spirit of a transcendent-grade divine weapon before. Jita also had a few transcendent-grade divine weapons. However, Jita had never seen an artifact spirit with human intelligence. Furthermore, it was able to show such an exquisite expression. When Yi Qinghan saw the two of them looking at him as though he was a monster, he rubbed his nose embarrassedly and smiled. "Big brother Jita, you also know that this Slaughter God Blade has a strange origin. The strange artifact spirit that it gave birth to has nothing to do with me. Don't look at me like that. Jita and Xiao Hei's eyes flashed with disdain. It was obvious that it had nothing to do with Xiao Chun. There were so many transcendent grade divine weapons in the divine world, but there were no problems with the others and only Xiao Chen's. Removing the seal on the sealed God Valley, using the Slaughter God Blade, and comprehending the eternity of space. Which person in the divine world could do such a thing? Yi Qinghan was a genius that was publicly acknowledged in the divine world. Now, Artifact Spirit had appeared in the Slaughter God Blade, and it was a monster. In any case, anything that was related to Yi Qinghan was not strange. Little Han, this Artifact Spirit has already formed a simple intelligence. Will it evolve? How strong is it now? Will it betray us? Jita asked worriedly again. There's no need to be afraid if it betrays us. My lord has already refined it. If it betrays us, the Slaughter God Blade will explode, and this Artifact Spirit will be destroyed. Yi Qinghan knew what Jita was worried about and explained. Then, he looked at the Artifact Spirit in front of him and shook his head. I don't know if it will evolve or not. However, it has not evolved yet. Even after devouring so many demon world creatures, its strength has not increased. Currently, it is only slightly stronger than the Azura King. I wonder what will happen if it fights against the supremacy. Jita became silent. After a while, a determined look appeared in his eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, in that case, we will continue to kill demons and see if it can evolve. If it can evolve to the monarch level, it will be a great help to us. If something happens, let's talk about it again. Chapter 1032. Kid asked Yi Qinghan to continue letting the specter devour the demons while he went back to oversee the situation. However, he was a little closer to Yi Qinghan just in case. Xiaohei did not go back. He stayed by Yi Qinghan's side and watched the specter devour the demons with interest. His face was full of amazement, and he even shouted from time to time, Dog, there's an Azura over there. Hurry up and kill it. Dog, you're a dog. You don't listen to orders. Dog, kill, kill, kill. These demon world dogs have killed so many people from the divine realm. Kill them all. Therefore, Yi Qinghan listened to Xiaohei shouting at the side every day. He could not be bothered with him and continued to command the specter dog to kill the demon Azura. During this period of time, the East Sea of the Star Sea was very peaceful. No Azura kings appeared. At the same time, Kid communicated with the sovereigns in other directions. He also discovered that since the last time 1,000 Azura kings attacked Emo Shangwang's army in the northwest, the countless Azura kings in the Star Sea seemed to have fallen silent. After a month, there was still no Azura king. Everyone felt that something was wrong. Lord Qingshan ordered all the legions to speed up the cleanup. They strived to completely clean up the demon forces in the Star Sea in 2 months. They also reminded the legions to be vigilant at all times and watch out for sneak attacks from the Azura kings. According to the preliminary investigation, there were more than 3,000 Azura kings in the Star Sea. The last time they attacked the northwest, they killed hundreds of them. Including those killed by the legions, there were less than 1,000 left. Where did the other 2,000 Azura kings go? This question was like a sword hanging over the heads of the sovereigns. Yi Qinghan received Kid's message and became even more careful. He did not dare to go too deep. He only continued to let Netherworld devour the demons in the black fog that the Misty Army's divine sense could not detect. This dog had already devoured hundreds of thousands of demon Azuras, but it didn't show any signs of evolution. It only became more intimate with Yi Qinghan. Moreover, as soon as Yi Qinghan willed it, it would immediately respond. It seemed as if it had completely become a slave of Yi Qinghan, attacking wherever he pointed. After a few months, all the demonic beasts in the continents were finally cleared. This time, not only the demonic beasts that attacked the cities, but even the demonic beasts in the depths of the mountains were all cleared. The number of casualties from the demonic beast rampage had also been roughly calculated. The number of casualties in the god realm had reached hundreds of billions. Although most of them were low-level martial artists, it was still a painful lesson for the divine world. Countless martial artists lost their loved ones. countless tribes were destroyed, and countless small cities lost their city lords. The hatred of the god realm martial artists towards demons had reached a terrifying level. At the same time, he was furious at the Supreme Island for causing this. Countless battle gods even withdrew from the Battle God Pavilion. Countless martial artists in the Battle God Pavilion begged the chief pavilion master for an explanation. The Battle God Pavilion was established to kill demons and protect the people of the God realm. Now, as the sacred ground of the Battle God Pavilion, the Supreme Island caused this calamity. Moreover, after the incident, the Star Sovereign still didn't give any explanation. Countless low-level martial artists protested in the Battle God Pavilion's branches. Countless high-level battle gods also joined in. The pavilion masters of the various pavilions were extremely anxious. Countless messages were sent to the Supreme Island like snowflakes. However, in the end, all the pavilion masters received the same message. The chief pavilion master was in seclusion and would give the god realm an explanation after he came out. This explanation wasn't convincing at all. However, the elites of the various continents had all gone to the Star Sea. If there was another riot in the Battle God Pavilion, the god realm would be in chaos again. Countless people would die. Therefore, all the sovereigns had no choice but to give out sovereign orders to temporarily appease the angry martial artists. Even so, countless sovereigns hated the Star Sovereign even more. The mistake that the Supreme Island made not only caused the God Realm to suffer heavy losses, but they also had to clean up after themselves twice 1 month later. Lord Qingshan led the 18,000 cavalrymen and tore a hole in the black cloth above the Starry Sea. His army attacked the inner sea of the Starry Sea. There were still no demons in the inner sea. The sky was clear and the sun shone brightly. The demons seemed to be extremely afraid of the inner sea and didn't step in. This situation made Lord Qingshan extremely wary. After personally patrolling the inner sea, he gave out another order to attack at full speed. His 18,000 cavalrymen split into 2 groups and swept toward the east and west. 5 days later, the ice guards that the Ice Queen brought also pierced through the black fog and reached the inner sea. They also split into 2 teams and started to sweep towards the east and west. The demon army was also split into 2 and was surrounded by countless armies from the God realm. It was as if victory was right in front of them. Yi Qinghan didn't find anything strange about the demon army. He continued to let the dog continue to swallow the demons. Similarly, he didn't meet a single Shura king. The dog didn't change at all. This made Yi Qinghan a little depressed. After eating so much, even a pig would gain some weight, right? This dog didn't change at all. Its body also didn't show signs of becoming real. If there was any change, it seemed like it was more flattering, more annoying, and more like a dog. Boss, you dog, why do I feel like you are becoming more and more like the guards in the Cold Heart Pavilion in the Fire Dragon continent? I really want to beat you up when I see your expression. Xiaohe was also a little annoyed. He also lost interest in commanding the dog and just stood at the side. Without the Shura King, there was no show to watch. Looking at Spectral killing the small fries wasn't exciting at all. Xiao! Suddenly, the space beside him fluctuated. Jida teleported over with a solemn expression. He said to Yi Qinghan, "Something happened. What's going on?" Yi Qinghan waved his hand to let Spectral enter the Slaughter God Blade and asked hurriedly. Jida sighed deeply and said, "Something happened in the West Ocean. An hour ago, there was an intense tremor in the sky above the West Ocean. There was also a terrifying pressure. Lord Qingshan said that the remaining 2,000 Shura Kings were all gathered in the sky above the West Ocean's Evil Wind Island. They tore a giant space crack and forcefully allowed a Devil Monarch to descend." Devil Monarch? Yi Qinghan frowned slightly. Xiaohe didn't dare to say anything. Yi Qinghan was silent for a moment before asking, "Is a Devil Monarch so terrifying? We have so many grade 9 martial emperors. Can't we suppress a Devil Monarch?" "It's not that we can't suppress it." Jida shook his head and said, "Just now, Lord Qingshan and Ice Queen searched inside. They only found numerous Shura Kings, but not the aura of the Devil Monarch. If the Devil Monarch fights head-on, We won't be afraid even if there are 10 of them. But if he hides, it will be troublesome. Hides? Where can he hide? There are so many of us. Can we find his true body? Yi Qinghan asked in surprise. Logically speaking, the devil monarch should be able to find his true body easily. Once all the demons were cleaned up, where could he hide? No, little Han, you don't understand. Jita's eyes were filled with worry. He looked up at the sky and said, demons are actually formed from the condensation of demonic aura. Didn't you see that after a demon is hit, it will instantly erode? The Devil King and Shura are the same. The Shura King also uses demonic aura to form a new body. As for the Devil Monarch, he is even stronger. As long as there is demonic aura, he won't die. Similarly, as long as there is demonic aura, he can hide within the demonic aura. Originally, the demonic aura in the god world wasn't strong. But during this period of time, the demonic aura in the god world's heaven and earth essence energy has become very thick. So, this devil monarch can hide anywhere in the god world. Or he might be hiding right beside us. As long as he doesn't make a move, no one knows where he is. Chapter 1033. When Yi Qinghan heard the misty monarch's words, he felt a chill run down his spine. His hair stood on end. He was not afraid of enemies in the open, but he was afraid of assassins in the dark. With such a ticking time bomb in the divine world, no one knew when or where it would explode. It was truly a terrifying thing. The Devil Monarch was the supreme existence of the devil world. Furthermore, it had an almost immortal body. As long as it had the aura of a devil, it could revive infinitely. Furthermore, no one knew if it had any other powerful abilities. Even the Ice Queen couldn't be on guard all the time, right? If it was a sneak attack, the outcome would be tragic. Yi Qinghan's heart trembled. He quickly kept the Slaughter God's saber and threw it into the War Imperial Palace. Jita had said that the reason why the devils came to the divine world was to save their ancestor devil. A small part of the reason was because of this saber. It was still unknown if the Spectre Dog could evolve. If a devil monarch kept thinking about it, it wouldn't be a good thing. Big Brother Jita, what should we do? Should we rush to the Evil Wind Island now? Yi Qinghan's face turned solemn. If he didn't suppress this devil monarch, he wouldn't be able to sleep well at night. No need. Jita shook his head and said, wait for Lord Qingshan's news. He and the Ice Queen sent a message. They're searching with all their might. If there are any clues, they will inform everyone immediately and suppress the devil monarch. Continue to eliminate the devils quickly. You go and take command. I will do my best. Yi Qinghan nodded. Jita brought the two of them and teleported out. Then a purple spear appeared in Jita's hand. At the same time, he shouted, Reserve team, follow me to battle. Jita didn't bring a single venerable and let them continue to eliminate the devils. He only brought 100,000 ordinary 5th grade and 6th grade war gods. The purple spear trembled and let out a soft sound. It was obviously an overclocking divine weapon. However, Jita didn't let the weapon spirit fight. Instead, he casually danced in the air. As he danced, a light breeze blew. A light breeze caressed their faces, making them feel comfortable. However, Yi Qinghan's eyes lit up. Others could only feel a gentle breeze blowing past them, but he could clearly sense that the surrounding spatial energy was flowing along with Jita's spear. It quietly gathered around Jita's body and began to revolve around him in a certain position. The power of space can be controlled like this? Use? Yi Qinghan's knowledge had been broadened. He felt that the power of space was like a tamed dragon. It was divided into strands and very docile as it circled around Jita's body. Furthermore, it was extremely relaxed. Kills. Gid's silver robes fluttered in the wind. His scholarly aura vanished without a trace, and his entire body erupted with a tyrannical aura of slaying gods and demons. His body was like a dragon as he charged forward. Chi! With a wave of his spear, Yi Qinghan could feel that the power of space around him had turned into roaring dragons that silently attacked the black mist in front of him. In an instant, the black mist in front of him was crushed like gravel being crushed by a road roller. The demons hiding inside were also ruthlessly erased. Behind him, countless streams of space power continued to revolve around him, forming a cycle. Jita's spear danced like an elegant dancer as he danced in front of him. His movements were very elegant, and he didn't seem to have any lethality. However, wherever his spear pointed, the black mist was immediately torn apart, and the demon realm creatures inside died one after another. It was ridiculously strong. You can think of space power as a different kind of god power. The origin energy is the sharpest weapon, and the principle is the most powerful move. In this case, you can use the smallest amount of power to create the greatest lethality. Yi Qinghan recalled Lord Devour's words and thought about the way he used space power. Suddenly, he felt like a barbaric barbarian. He had god power, but he didn't know any martial techniques. It seemed like he had time to explore his own way of using space power. Only the one that suited him was the best. Yi Qinghan knew that Lord Devour and Jita didn't teach him because his comprehension of the principle was different from theirs. Moreover, it was easier for him to comprehend it himself and use it. With Jita leading the way and killing the powerful Shura and Demon Kings, the 100,000 Ethereal Legion behind him was very relaxed. It was like they were cleaning up the battlefield behind Jita. As soon as Jita took action, the speed of killing the demons increased. Yi Qinghan observed Jita's use of space power while checking the situation around him. Xiaohe enviously looked at Jita's back. His pair of bright eyes kept turning around as he sighed. He was thinking about how many women would fall under his robe if he was so strong. Because of Jita's help, the Ethereal Legion's energy increased and their attack speed increased. The two huge pieces of black cloth above the starry sea were slowly being nibbled away by countless cultivators, becoming smaller and smaller. Star Sea West Sea. The majestic Lord Qingshan and the ice sculpture-like Ice Queen stood proudly in the sky. Although Ice Queen and Lord Qingshan were like a monkey and a gorilla. Looking from afar, Ice Queen didn't look small. But looking from afar, Ice Queen didn't seem small. Instead, her petite body gave off a majestic feeling. Although the two of them were standing in the sky, their divine senses were constantly sensing the massive black mist below them. Their cultivation bases were extremely formidable. Their divine senses could fuse with space power, so they could easily sense the situation below. The space cracks in the sky and the suction force from within seemed to have no effect on the two of them. Their robes didn't move at all. The two of them were solemn. Ice Queen even closed her eyes. The two of them had been standing in the sky for 3 days and had been checking the situation below. But it was a pity that although there were countless demons and Asuras down below, as well as over 2,000 Asura kings that were so powerful that they could strike fear into the hearts of countless people in the divine world, there was no sign of the Devil Monarch. Abruptly, Ice Queen opened her eyes. Under her snow-white robe, her proud twin peaks trembled slightly. However, Lord Qingshan didn't look at them. Although he craved them and wanted to play with them, he didn't want to die. Therefore, his eyes suddenly widened and shot out 2 golden beams of light that were almost tangible. The Shura King army below moved. Lord Qingshan looked for a while, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. However, he couldn't help but glance at Ice Queen's pair of prideful treasures. As a result, a chill instantly enveloped Lord Qingshan. He immediately frowned, and a bitter smile appeared on his face. With a hint of flattery, he looked down again and said in a loud voice, "Icy Snow, you're smart. You guessed correctly. This foolish devil monarch actually wants to save his ancestor. Should we follow him or watch from the sidelines? I am warning you for the last time. If you call me Icy Snow again, I will flatten that green mountain of yours." The Ice Queen's bone-chilling voice rang out. Then, her body disappeared on the spot. However, her cold voice echoed in the air again. Although the Star Sovereign's soul is heavily injured, it's impossible for a trash like you to charge into the Nephi's abyss. Let's clean up these demons first. Chapter 1034. Qingshan smiled. His body disappeared, and he started to send a message to the other rulers. The various armies were to continue clearing out the remaining evil demon army. The evil demon army on Star Ocean's West Ocean was surrounded on 3 sides. Only the inner ocean wasn't surrounded because the evil demon army didn't attack it. Under the leadership of the 2,000 Shura kings, half of the evil demon army on the West Ocean side headed towards the inner ocean. Qing Shan and Ice Queen didn't care and continued to clear out the remaining evil demon army. In just 5 days, the West Ocean sky turned clear once more. The warm light of the evil sun shone on the sky above the West Ocean once more. Qing Shan and Ice Queen gave orders once more. The army headed towards the East Ocean and ignored the inner ocean. They started to help the East Ocean martial artists to clear out the remaining evil demon army. The black mist above the Star Ocean became lesser and lesser. The shadow that covered the God World sky was about to be swept away. However, the shadow in Yi Qinghan and the others' hearts became thicker and thicker. Qing Shan and Ice Queen didn't spread the news of the Shura kings heading to Supreme Island. Only when all the evil demons were cleared did Qing Shan order all the armies to surround the inner ocean. Then, watch the show. Watch the show. When the rulers heard these 2 words, their eyes lit up. The whereabouts of the 2,000 Shura kings were clear now. They headed to the inner ocean, and the Devil Monarch would definitely follow them. Jida and Yi Qinghan exchanged glances with one another, and a smile appeared in their eyes. Yi Qinghan didn't have a good impression of Supreme Island at all. At least there was someone he had to kill there. If he had a chance, he would definitely attack. Supreme Island was to blame for the God World's calamity. Did Qing Shan and Ice Queen purposely lead the 2,000 Shura kings and Devil Monarch to the inner ocean? Or did the Devil Monarch have such a plan? Why did they go to Supreme Island? Yi Qinghan looked at Qing Shan's majestic body in confusion, as well as Ice Queen's body beside him. He started to think, no. Yi Qinghan squinted his eyes. Although Qing Shan and Ice Queen were strong, they weren't strong enough to control the Devil Monarch's tracks. If they could, they wouldn't hesitate to attack. There was only one explanation. The Demon Monarch and Shura King wanted to go to Supreme Island themselves. Their ancestral fiend was on Supreme Island. Their ancestral fiend was suppressed in the Nephi's abyss. Yi Qinghan recalled the scene he saw in the War God Pavilion. The scene where the 3 demon monarchs fought against the 3 pavilion masters of the War God Pavilion. It was highly possible that the Nephi's abyss was there. Also, the Soul Emperor had died. Lord Devour said that she and the Soul Emperor had accidentally entered a place and obtained 2 heaven-defying treasures, as well as the Slaughter God Blade. Since the Slaughter God Blade was the weapon of the Demon Sovereign, it should also be stored in the Nephi's abyss. The Venerable who used the Slaughter God Blade was most likely a Venerable from the Supreme Island. The fact that the Soul Emperor could obtain the Slaughter God Blade meant that he had been to the Nephi's abyss before. Moreover, the formidable enemy that Lord Devour had mentioned and the Star Monarch was the strongest in the divine world. Didn't that fulfill the conditions? That's right. Lord Devour said that their enemy was trapped in a place and couldn't get out. Didn't the Star Monarch stay in seclusion for a long time? Furthermore, the island had been sealed all this time. Everything matched up. From the start, Yi Qinghan suspected that the Star Monarch was the enemy that Lord Devour had mentioned. Now, everything was clear. The Star Monarch, the chief pavilion master of the War God Pavilion, the strongest person in the divine world. He was most likely a grade 9 supreme martial artist. Even Lord Qing Shan and the Ice Queen didn't have the will to fight against him. Yi Qinghan felt as though a huge mountain was pressing down on his shoulders. At this moment, he felt a little suffocated. His eyes narrowed even more. He raised his head and looked at the sea of stars in the distance. He straightened his back slightly, but a towering battle intent exploded in his heart. Yi Qinghan had always been the type of person who would be more motivated the more pressure he felt. When faced with an insurmountable mountain in front of him, he would first feel suppressed and suffocated. After that, a crazy, evil aura would erupt from within their bones. A tyrannical and unreasonable battle intent. This had nothing to do with the heart of an expert. This was just the ruthlessness of a small character who had climbed up from the bottom. It wasn't easy for him to climb up to such a height and enjoy the benefits of power and strength. Now, someone wanted to beat him back to his original state? Wanted to destroy everything he had? Was it possible that he wouldn't risk his life to fight with you? Yi Qinghan didn't reveal much on the surface, but Jida, who was beside him, could feel the crazy battle intent that was released from his bones. He knew that Yi Qinghan understood something, but he didn't explain. Instead, there was a flash of appreciation and gratification in his eyes. The army began to move towards the inland sea. Kid patted Yi Qinghan's shoulder. The two of them looked at each other and exchanged glances. They smiled at each other. At this moment, Jida felt that he and this young man, who had cultivated for less than 1,000 years, had a feeling of mutual appreciation. For some reason, Jida thought of a saying that went, "There will always be talented people in every generation. The new generation will replace the old, and the new generation will replace the old. I wonder if the old generation will die on the beach." The army advanced really quickly. Without the obstruction of the evil demons, the army was made up of Emperor God experts, and they weren't far from the inland sea. All the sovereigns brought their own armies and surrounded the inland sea. Then they started to retract the encirclement. 5 days later, when Yi Qinghan and the rest could sense 9 Guardian Island with their divine senses, Lord Qingshan and Ice Queen gave the order to stop advancing and the army to stand guard. Normal martial artists wouldn't be able to sense it, but they could see the black fog in the distance, as well as the blinding 7-colored shield of Supreme Island that was giving off a sky-piercing light. Yi Qinghan and the other level 9 experts started to use their space power to sense the situation around Supreme Island. In Lord Qingshan's words, they were standing here to watch a good show. The place where Yi Qinghan and the rest were standing wasn't too far away from Supreme Island. His divine senses might not be able to sense it clearly, but his space power could easily sense it. In front of him, there were hundreds of thousands of evil demons surrounding Supreme Island. However, there wasn't a single person on 9 Guardian Island. There weren't any demons either. It was obvious that they had all retreated into Supreme Island. At this moment, more than 2,000 Shura Kings were surrounding the 7-colored shield of Supreme Island, attacking it nonstop. There were also countless Shuras that surrounded the giant shield of Supreme Island. Giant iron fists smashed onto the shield, causing a deafening explosion. Countless evil demon auras turned into sharp arrows that rained down on the 7-colored shield. The barrier flickered with light, as dazzling as lightning in the dark night, and burst out with a terrifying aura. There were so many Shura Kings, so many Shuras, and they had been attacking for at least a few days, but the shield was still standing. Looking at the light, it didn't seem like much energy was used up. If the Devil Monarch doesn't attack, I don't know if they can break this shield even after a month. Jida squinted his eyes and smiled at Yi Qinghan. So strong. A strange look flashed across Yi Qinghan's eyes. More than 2,000 Shura Kings were equivalent to more than 2,000 Venerables. The shield of Fiery Dragon City was designed by Lord Devour himself. It was said that it could only withstand one attack from 100 Venerables at most. Jida smirked coldly. He then sent a voice transmission and said mysteriously, "This shield can replenish itself by absorbing the chi of heaven and earth, and it can replenish itself very quickly. I heard a rumor that this shield was built by a mysterious expert in the God of War Pavilion, and this expert is even stronger than the Star Monarch. He calls himself the Emperor of War. However, I've never seen this person before, so I don't know if this voice transmission is true." That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.